playing as Tathagata in Marvel, I suppressed Thanos for 500 years. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, Play as a Mythical Character System. Chapter 1, Playing as a Mythological Character System, 2024-08-19. Author, Good Monster. Chapter 1, Playing as a Mythological Character System. Chapter 1, Playing as a Mythological Character System. I am Iron Man. As a handsome Western man uttered these words on TV, Lin Feng was so shocked that he could have fit an egg in his mouth. Holy crap. I actually traveled to the Marvel world. Lin Feng wasn't from this world. But after his research, coupled with the words of Tony Stark on the TV news, he was finally certain he had traveled to the Marvel world. Furthermore, his research had revealed that the Chinese world in this world had no mythological stories. Those familiar mythological figures had no detailed information here, only fragments, as if there had been a gap in their long history. However, this wasn't the case with Western mythology. Of course, that's a story for another time. This is fucked. How did I travel to such a dangerous world? Lin Feng trembled anxiously, picking up the remote and turning off the news. At this point, he no longer had the heart to read on. This was the Marvel Universe, after all, where earth-destroying events could happen at any moment. While in the movies, disasters always occurred in the United States, now that he'd traveled through time, both the United States and China were on Earth. If Earth was in danger, how could China remain safe? Furthermore, even excluding that possibility, the Marvel Universe contained all sorts of extraordinary individuals and evil organizations. It would be too dangerous for ordinary people without any skills. Lin Feng's thoughts grew increasingly gloomy. But there was nothing he could do. Now that he'd traveled through time, there was no way to change. Forget it, let's be open-minded and take things one step at a time. Right now, I should think about what kind of work I need to do to support myself, Lin Feng pondered. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Perhaps, with my knowledge of mythology, I could apply for a professorship at a university. There's a gap in Chinese mythology right now, and I think I'd be well received if I applied to teach in that area. But just as Lin Feng had this thought, a metallic sound echoed in his ears. Ling. System binding, huh? System? Lin Feng was stunned for a moment, then immediately became excited. He also loved reading novels, so naturally he knew what a system was. This was a life hack. I never thought I'd actually get a system one day. But since time travel has already happened, getting a system isn't surprising, Lin Feng thought happily. Then, he added, system. Please introduce your functions. Okay, Master. This system is called the role-play system. As long as you play a mythical character, you'll receive rewards. The more realistic you are, the greater the reward. Additionally, the shock value you evoke from playing a character can be used to purchase items like character cards. This system is quite interesting. Lin Feng's face was filled with excitement. Who hasn't had a bit of a naivete? Who hasn't admired a mythical character, learned their moves and speech? Now, this system allows you to play these mythical characters. How cool is that? Ling. Newbie gift packs are being distributed. Open them now. Newbie gift packs? Open them, Lin Feng said eagerly. Ling. Congratulations, Master, on obtaining level 1 role-playing privileges for the great sage equaling heaven, Sun Wukong. Ling. Congratulations, Master, on obtaining level 1 role-playing privileges for Tathagata Buda. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. In his previous world, these two mythical figures were familiar figures, even 5-year-olds knew them, so of course he knew them too. But what does this level of role-playing privilege mean? Lin Feng asked again, puzzled. Master, role-playing privileges limit a character's power. The levels range from 1 to 9, with 1 being the lowest and 9 being the highest. This means that once role-playing privileges reach level 9, the master can unleash the full power of the character they're playing. At level 1, that's roughly 10% of the character's power. However, because each character's power varies, even at the same role-playing level, there can be a difference in power. For example, if Tathagata Buda and Sun Wukong are inherently more powerful than Sun Wukong, then even at the same role-playing level, the former will be significantly stronger than the latter. I see, Lin Feng nodded to himself. This was easy to understand. Tathagata was inherently stronger than the Monkey King, So even with 10% of their strength, they were definitely stronger. At this moment, the system voice chimed in again. The master will continuously earn role-playing points as they play. When the points reach a certain level, they can upgrade their role-playing privileges. Additionally, completing hero missions can earn a significant amount of role-playing points. Hero missions? Lin Feng was startled, then he understood. This was the Marvel Universe, where disasters and troubles abounded. So-called hero missions were supposed to be about doing what a hero should do. For example, what Iron Man, Spider-Man, and the others did. This shouldn't be difficult. I've obtained role-playing cards for Sun Wukong and Tathagata. Although I only have level 1 role-playing privileges, I can only unleash 10% of their power. However, Sun Wukong is incredibly powerful, possessing 72 transformations and the art of immortality. Tathagata is even more powerful, so even with only 10% of their power, it should be quite impressive. Lin Feng's heart pounded with excitement. Moreover, he had another thought. If he could portray these mythological characters and appear before the public, wouldn't it spark a wave of interest in exploring ancient myths and legends in China? It was an intriguing thought. Lin Feng smiled broadly. But just then, a rumbling sound echoed from the sky, and the house began to shake. A sense of suspense arose. What's going on? Lin Feng quickly walked to the window, his expression immediately startled. Not far away, in the sky, a brilliant meteor streaked towards the distance. However, calling it a meteor didn't seem quite right. It was colorful, and meteors don't have that. This scene was witnessed by many people in the city. People driving, walking, and working in offices were all stunned. What the hell? What is that? Is it a meteor? How could that be? Have you ever seen a colorful meteor? Holy shit, it looks like it's going to crash into the mountains over there. How come it hasn't been rubbed off by the atmosphere? I don't know. Waves of discussion followed. Some people even took out their phones to take videos. It can be predicted that in 30 minutes at most, this matter will become a hot search on the internet. And then, the colorful meteor fell towards the distant mountains and forests. With a bang, a large amount of smoke and dust was raised. Due to the distance, the ground in the city only felt a slight tremor. If it fell closer, it would definitely trigger a wave of ground tremors and cause disasters. Lin Feng looked at the distant mountain in shock. At this time, smoke and dust were still rising over there. This is the Marvel world, and that meteor may not be normal, Lin Feng analyzed. By the way, use the character card and fly over to see what's going on with that meteor. Thinking of this, Lin Feng was shocked. Chapter 2 Sun Wukong Role-Playing Card. Chapter 2, Sun Wukong Role-Playing Card, 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster Chapter 2, Sun Wukong Role-Playing Card. Lin Feng quickly pulled out the Monkey King Sun Wukong role-playing card. He planned to try the Tathagata role-playing card later, and since Tathagata's image was solemn, majestic, and grand, it wasn't suitable for such a spectator's situation. The character card depicted a monkey, head bowed slightly, its features blurred. He wore a purple gold 7-star crown, lotus silk cloud walking shoes, and golden chain mail armor. A fiery red cape fluttered in the wind behind him. A ruai golden cudgel slung across his shoulders, his hands dangling from it. He looked dashing and handsome. Lin Feng took a deep breath. This image is so cool. Without hesitation, he chose to use it. Ding! A system notification chimed. The next second, the character card transformed into a beam of white light and flew out, swirling around Lin Feng. The light then grew brighter, like a one-click costume change in a game. Soon, the light faded, and Lin Feng had transformed into the character on the character card. His face was covered in pale golden hair, and he wore a purple gold 7-star crown, lotus silk cloud walking shoes, and golden chainmail armor. He held a golden cudgel in his hand. This wasn't Shi Zhang's portrayal of Sun Wukong, but Lin Feng's own portrayal of Sun Wukong. Handsome and unrestrained. Lin Feng opened his eyes, a clear aura flowing through him. A powerful and mysterious force surged through his body, making him feel a little uncomfortable. But he would get used to it after a while. Lin Feng exhaled. Is this the role-playing card? This feeling of mastering power is so refreshing. The system is amazing, Lin Feng smiled. However, he didn't forget his business. He had to investigate the situation of the 7-colored meteor. He was about to go, but suddenly remembered that he was playing Sun Wukong and should imitate his image to earn role-playing points. What does Sun Wukong say before he flies off to do something? Lin Feng pondered for a moment, his eyes lighting up. He had an idea. Immediately, he shouted wildly, "I, old son, am leaving." With that, he leaped, carrying his golden cudgel, and vanished. Only a wisp of smoke left behind, dissipating into the air. His shout also caught the attention of the other residents in the building. "Who's there? That gave me a fright. I, old son, am leaving? What does that even mean? Who's having a fit? Damn. That was such a bold shout, it gave me goosebumps." In this world, China's mythology has suffered a gap, so no one knows the mythological figures, and naturally, what these words mean. In the original world, even a 5-year-old would know who said these words. Lin Feng now appeared above the building. With his sharp eyes and ears, he saw and heard everyone's reactions, and a sense of inexplicable frustration welled up in his heart. In this world, China's mythology has suffered a gap. So, let this world, and the heroes of the West, witness what Chinese mythology truly is. Lin Feng gathered his thoughts and quickly flew towards the forest where the colorful meteor had crashed. At the crash site, a massive crater 10 meters in diameter appeared on the ground. Within the crater, weeds, trees, and even roots had completely vaporized, leaving not a trace of debris behind. In the center of the crater lay a hammer. The hammer's head was silver, engraved with patterns on both ends, and a strap hung at the end of the handle. It looked incredibly extraordinary. However, how could something so powerful, emanating a rainbow of light and creating such a powerful commotion, be ordinary? Just then, a man came running over, panting, and stood in front of the crater. Though his face was covered in sweat, he gazed at the hammer in the crater, a smile of excitement spreading across his face. "Mjolnir, it's you, my precious." The man was none other than Thor, the god of thunder. And the hammer in the crater was Mjolnir. Nicknamed Thor's Hammer, Meow Hammer. Thor, impulsive, was imprisoned by his father, Odin, who confiscated his power, took away his hammer, and banished him to Earth. Just then, he saw a 7-colored meteor and sensed a familiar presence. He rushed over recklessly. Seeing the 7-colored meteor, he realized it was indeed his hammer. Excited, Thor leaped into the pit without hesitation and walked up to retrieve his hammer. But just then, a golden light descended from the sky, piercing the ground with a thud, stirring up a cloud of dust. Thor choked, coughing and brushing away the dust. When the dust cleared, Thor saw the object responsible, a thin metal rod with the golden hoops at each end and a long, black iron rod in the middle. Thor was puzzled. What is this? Could it have come with Mjolnir? Just as Thor was wondering, a figure suddenly appeared on the iron rod. The man's face was covered in pale golden hair. He wore a purple gold 7-star crown, lotus silk cloud walking shoes, and golden chainmail armor. With his left foot resting on an iron rod, he crouched slightly, appearing seated, his right leg crossed, looking incredibly uninhibited. However, Thor was no mortal, so he didn't express surprise at this fantastical scene, merely observing him warily. Lin Feng also looked at Thor. Though outwardly calm, he was secretly surprised. Thor, the god of thunder? How could he appear in China? And with that Meowth hammer, Lin Feng turned to look at Thor's hammer. He remembered it falling in Mexico in the movies, but how could it have landed in China now? Could it be a butterfly effect caused by my time travel? Lin Feng could only think of this one possible explanation. However, with Thor's hammer appearing, the Marvel storyline had truly begun. Lin Feng's thoughts drifted somewhat. Then, a voice rang in his ears. "Hey, who are you?" Thor looked at the hairy-faced figure before him with a wary expression. He wasn't sure if the other person was friend or foe. As Odin's son, he had fought many battles and naturally had many enemies. So, it was very likely that this person was seeking revenge. Hearing this, Lin Feng turned back to Thor and, imitating the Monkey King's manner, asked, "Where did you come from, you monster? How dare you stir up trouble here? You are the monster." Hearing this, Thor realized that the other person wasn't seeking revenge, because they didn't even recognize him. However, he was a little angry. He was the Lord of the 9 Realms, the son of Odin, the father of the gods, and yet he was being called a monster, a lowly creature that could only twist and crawl on the ground. He immediately corrected him righteously, "I'm a god." Oh, Lin Feng nodded, then added, strange. No wonder I can't sense any demonic energy from you. Then what kind of god are you? Tell me your name." "What god?" Thor became even more furious. He patted his chest and shouted, "I am Thor, the son of Odin, the lord of the 9 realms and the father of the gods. Although it was the first time he heard the term god of gods, he understood it. It must have been used to describe lesser gods. But how could you be a lesser god? This was a grave insult. Odin? I don't know him, Lin Feng feigned ignorance, waving his hands like son Wukong. Seeing Lin Feng's reaction, Thor suddenly lost his temper like a deflated balloon. After all, if the other party didn't even know his father, then no amount of explanation would be of any use. It was like an ant trying to explain the power of an elephant, completely useless. Thor glared at Lin Feng and didn't bother to talk to him anymore. He walked straight towards Thor's hammer, intending to pick it up. But at this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind him. God, what are you doing? Chapter 3 Lin Feng snatched Thor's hammer. Chapter 3, Lin Feng steals Thor's hammer. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 3, Lin Feng steals Thor's hammer. Thor pointed at Mjolnir and said, that hammer is mine. I want it, Lin Feng scoffed and said, you hairy god, do you think I didn't see it? That thing just now clearly fell from the sky. If it did, it's ownerless. How can you say it's yours? Lin Feng knew Mjolnir was Thor's weapon, but he was playing the role of Sun Wukong, so he naturally had to put himself in Sun Wukong's shoes. Sun Wukong, on the other hand, was unaware of these matters. What do you mean by ownerless? If I pick it up and show you, it'll prove it's mine. Thor didn't want to waste any more time on this hairy-faced guy. He walked towards Mjolnir. But his mind couldn't help but recall the scene of his exile, when his father Odin angrily scolded him, imprisoned his own divine power, and took back Mjolnir. But Mjolnir has come to Earth, too. It must have been arranged by my father. Perhaps he's just punishing me. Once I retrieve Mjolnir, I'll regain my divine power and return to Asgard, Thor thought excitedly. He approached Mjolnir, a smile on his face, and reached out to grasp the hammer's handle. But the moment he touched it, his expression changed slightly. The feeling was completely different. He'd always felt a sense of connection, but now it felt like he was gripping a piece of stone, a dead object. Thor frantically tried to lift the hammer, but found it impossible. Huh? Thor wondered. He strained again, but it still didn't work. The hammer seemed to have grown into the ground. How could this happen? Thor was puzzled. Then, Lin Feng's voice rang out. Hey, are you okay? Didn't you say this hammer was yours? Why can't you even lift it? Thor ignored him. Without further ado, he grasped the hammer's handle with his left hand, took a deep breath, and exerted force with both hands simultaneously, attempting to lift Mjolnir. Seeing this, Lin Feng rolled off the cudgel, then squatted on the ground carrying it. Having seen the movie, Lin Feng knew that Odin had imprisoned Thor's power and cast a spell on the hammer, making it impossible for Thor to lift it. However, Thor had been exiled before Odin cast the spell on the hammer, so he had no knowledge of this. Sure enough, Thor clenched his teeth, his face flushed, veins bulged on his forehead, and his arms throbbed with blood. But it was no use, Mjolnir didn't budge. Suddenly, Thor's grip slipped, and inertia sent him crashing to the ground. Lin Feng burst into laughter upon seeing this. Ha ha ha, brilliant, brilliant. You're hilarious. Forget about whether or not this hammer is yours. You can't even lift such a small one, and you claim to be a god? What god could be as weak and powerless as you? Ha ha ha. Upon hearing this, Thor was instantly enraged. He quickly stood up and, as if in anger but also trying to save face, said to Lin Feng, you're so powerful, come on. I don't think you can lift it either. Thor knew Mjolnir well, even Loki couldn't lift it. This man wasn't from Asgard, so he certainly couldn't either. However, Thor was no fool. He now understood that Mjolnir must have been tampered with by his father, Odin, which was why he couldn't lift it. Alright. Since you say so, I'll show you my skills. With that, Sun Wukong stood up and casually pounded his golden cudgel into the ground. Then he walked towards Mjolnir. Thor watched as Lin Feng walked up to Mjolnir, grasped the hammer's handle with his right hand, and exerted his strength. But Mjolnir didn't budge. Huh? It's quite substantial, Lin Feng exclaimed in surprise. Thor's lips curled up, half mockingly, half boasting. Do you realize how powerful it is? It's one of our most important weapons in Asgard. A native of a lowly planet like you wouldn't be able to lift it. Thor currently believed the hairy-faced figure was from Earth. While that was true, Lin Feng, upon hearing this, said, why rush? I haven't even started. He then summoned his strength, a golden glow emanating from his body. His fiery red cape fluttered behind him without a breeze. Thor watched this scene with disdain. He didn't believe Lin Feng could lift it. But the next moment, he was stunned. Lin Feng shouted, "Get up!" Mjolnir was lifted up with a single hand. Thor's eyes nearly popped out of his head, and a turbulent storm surged within him. How is this possible? How could this man lift Mjolnir? Is he his father's illegitimate son on Earth? Thor would rather suspect Lin Feng was Odin's illegitimate son than believe he had lifted the hammer through sheer strength. This was beyond his comprehension. And just as he was stunned, something even more shocking occurred. Lin Feng weighed Mjolnir and said with disdain, "Is it just this weight? It's not much. But this hammer is so ugly. If I use it to fight monsters, they'll just laugh at me." Not good. Lin Feng shook his head and threw the hammer into the sky. Whoosh, the hammer vanished in a flash. Thor was dumbfounded. He had never expected the man before him to throw Mjolnir. This was one of Asgard's most valuable weapons, coveted but unattainable by countless beings in the 9 realms. And now, this man had discarded it like trash. Thor was furious, pointing at Lin Feng and cursing, You're crazy. Do you know what that is? It's just an ugly, broken hammer." Lin Feng feigned ignorance. "It's not a proper weapon, so what's the point?" Thor pointed at Lin Feng angrily, his fingers trembling, his chest aching with anger, and for a moment, he was speechless. Suddenly, he saw Lin Feng's golden cudgel and shouted at him, "All right. Throw my hammer, and I'll throw your cudgel." Fearing Lin Feng would stop him, he quickly walked over to the cudgel, reached out and grasped it, trying to lift it. But he found that the iron rod seemed to be stuck to the ground, making it impossible to lift. What the hell? Thor was horrified. He had never imagined that this iron rod, which looked no thicker than his wrist, could be so heavy. Undeterred, Thor gritted his teeth and used both hands to lift the rod. But it remained motionless. Helpless, he reluctantly let go. Lin Feng watched the scene unfold. He made no attempt to stop Thor. Seeing Thor give up, he called out, "Go ahead, take it." "Why aren't you taking it?" Hearing this, Thor turned to look at Lin Feng. Not wanting Lin Feng to know he couldn't lift it, he made an excuse, "I just arrived on Earth and haven't eaten yet. I'm hungry, so I don't have the energy." "Haha, you're quite good at making excuses. Anyway, after you've eaten, I'll let you try again," Lin Feng said, mimicking Sun Wukong's words. HMPH, Thor stopped arguing with Lin Feng and quickly ran in the direction the hammer had been thrown. Chapter 4 Loki sends out the destroyer to kill Thor. Chapter 4, Loki dispatches the destroyer to kill Thor. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 4, Loki dispatches the destroyer to kill Thor. Lin Feng watched Thor's frantic flight without attempting to stop him. The purpose of his journey was to discover the identity of the colorful meteor. Now that he knew, there was no need to do anything more. However, since Thor's hammer has arrived on Earth, it means Earth will soon face various dangers. That will allow me to undertake heroic quests, Lin Feng pondered. It will also allow the Chinese to learn about their own mythological figures and understand their power, so they no longer need to fear the Norse gods. Lin Feng felt a faint excitement at this thought. Without further delay, he took the golden cudgel, spun in a circle, and vanished. Lin Feng's home. A flash of white light appeared, and Lin Feng appeared out of thin air. Immediately, with a thought, he ended his role-playing. A brilliant light emanated from him, then faded, and he returned to his normal self. The power that belonged to Sun Wukong vanished with it. However, he could regain Sun Wukong's power anytime, anywhere, should he so desire. Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. Now it was time to end his roleplay. Without that mysterious power, it was a bit hard to adjust to. This roleplay is being settled. Settlement completed. Congratulations, Master. You've earned a total of 158 points for this roleplay. 1000 points will grant you level 2 roleplay privileges, giving you 20% of Sun Wukong's power. Name, Lin Feng. Character cards, Sun Wukong. Tathagata Buda. Play points, Sun Wukong. 158 points. Note, roleplay points cannot be transferred between characters. Points earned from a character are valid only for that character. Shock value. 58 points. Note, shock value can be used to purchase items in the store, including but not limited to mythical character cards. A virtual panel appeared before him. Lin Feng nodded to himself. Reaching 1,000 points will grant you level 2 role-playing privileges, which is pretty easy. I just chatted with Thor and earned over 100 points. Lin Feng was eager for higher role-playing privileges. This would allow him to use things like the somersault cloud and the heaven-shaping earth technique. As for the 58 shock points, Lin Feng had figured out what they meant. Not long ago, when he went to check on the 7-colored meteor, he shouted, "I, old son, am leaving," and quite a few people heard him. These 58 shock points must have been contributed by them. The scene changed. Thor was running wildly in the woods. Although his divine power was restricted, his physique was still stronger than that of an average person, which allowed him to run for such a long time. Thor cursed Lin Feng in his heart. But then, he began to ponder Lin Feng's identity again. Mjolnir isn't something the average person could lift, let alone with the restrictions my father has placed on them. Even I can't lift it, so how could that person do it? Who is he? However, Thor was now certain that the other person wasn't his father's illegitimate son. If he were, he wouldn't have dropped the hammer, and there was no trace of Asgard about him. Thor was baffled. Could he really be a native of Earth? But could such a powerful being really exist on this low-level planet? Why hadn't he been discovered before? Even Heimdall hadn't seen him. Thor couldn't understand. Heimdall was the guardian of Asgard, guarding the Rainbow Bridge. His eyes could see across the 9 realms, and nothing in the 9 realms escaped his gaze. Yet, he had never heard him mention such a person. Which meant he had never seen this person. Thor frowned. The identity of Hairy Face gradually formed a mystery in his mind. After I retrieve the hammer, free myself from the restraints, and regain my divine power, I must find that hairy-faced man and ask him for the truth, Thor thought to himself. He continued to chase in the direction the hammer had flown. Meanwhile, at the location where the hammer had fallen, an armed helicopter roared over, blowing up dust on the ground below and bending the trees. Then, a rope was dropped from the helicopter, and several people came down. One of them was wearing a black suit, obviously a leader. As soon as Chen Haitian landed, he looked towards the center of the pit. There was nothing there, only a rectangular outline. And next to it was a round, stick-like outline. Chen Haitian frowned, his eyes filled with confusion. The people next to him were also surprised. What's going on? Why is there nothing here? Yeah, that meteorite created such a large crater, so something must have been left behind. Could it have been taken away beforehand? But we were fast enough, weren't we? Chen Haitian had been wondering this too, but upon hearing this, he suddenly realized something. He looked at his subordinates and said, "Go, investigate who Lao Sun is. Is he a pseudonym for someone with superpowers?" Lao Sun. The men were stunned by this. Then, a sudden realization dawned on them. On their way here, they'd seen numerous videos featuring the 7-colored meteor, many of which featured the phrase "I, old son, am leaving." This voice had a wild, arrogant air, clearly something out of the ordinary. And it happened to appear right as the 7-colored meteor streaked across the sky. This couldn't be a coincidence, there had to be some connection. Furthermore, the absence of anything in the crater meant it was possible that this old son had taken it away beforehand. If not, then he might be involved. Upon realizing this, several subordinates immediately understood their leader's intention and expressed their understanding. Meanwhile, in Asgard, after Odin banished Thor, he fell into deep sleep. For a time, Asgard was ruled by Loki. But in reality, all of this was Loki's ruse. He had first tricked Thor into attacking the frost giants, then caused Thor to be punished by Odin, his power imprisoned, Mjolnir reclaimed, and expelled from Asgard. His goal was to eliminate Thor and establish himself as the new heir of Asgard. His scheme had succeeded. He ascended the throne, possessing the scepter symbolizing power. But to hold this position securely, my dear brother, you must die. Loki's lips curled. Thor was merely exiled, not dead. Only with his death could Loki secure his position. Let me see where you are now. Loki tapped his scepter on the ground. With a thud, the scepter projected an image. In the image, Thor was running through the woods, grimy and in a state of extreme distress. He looked anything but the Prince of Asgard. So you're in Midgard, on a lesser planet. Looks like you've run into some trouble, Loki said with a playful smile. He then slammed his scepter into the ground again. This time, a resounding humming sound echoed. As king of Asgard, Loki issued a command, "Destroyer, kill him." Chapter 5 Thor was deceived. Chapter 5, Thor was tricked. 2024, 0819 Author, Good Monster Chapter 5, Thor was tricked. Wow, the internet is full of news about this incident now, Lin Feng exclaimed as he looked at his phone. The internet was full of news about a colorful meteor streaking across the sky, and some of the live videos even showed him shouting, old son, I'm leaving, and the sentence was also discussed by many people. Damn, that sentence happened right as the meteor streaked by. Could it be related to the meteor? Of course, it wouldn't be such a coincidence. I was there. The sound spread across a large area. This is definitely not something an ordinary person could do. So I suspect that the colorful meteor was an alien attack, or something else. And this Mr. Sun must be the hero protecting our Chinese people, who destroyed the aliens. That's possible. Come on, what can a single sound really prove? Don't believe rumors, don't spread them. That's right, rumors stop with the wise. Lin Feng looked at the online comments and smiled. Discuss it all you want. When the image of Sun Wukong truly appears before you, you'll know. When that time comes, there will undoubtedly be a wave of shock. After all, this is something beyond imagination. Meanwhile, Thor arrived in another city. He'd originally been running in the direction the hammer had been thrown, but after dodging several cars on the road and making several detours around residential areas blocking his path, he'd lost his bearings and couldn't tell which way the hammer had gone. Damn it! Which way is it going? Thor frantically circled like an ant on a hot pan, but he still couldn't tell. Forget it, let's ask a human. Thor hadn't wanted to ask a human, but there was no other way. He saw delivery boy and quickly approached him, grabbing him and asking, "Excuse me, did you see a hammer flying through the sky?" No, ask someone else." The delivery boy waved his hand away without even hearing the words, and hurried away. Thor watched him walk away, helpless, so he had to ask someone else again. "Excuse me, did you see a hammer flying through the sky?" This time, he asked a woman. But the woman looked at Thor, frowned, and wondered, what's wrong with this foreign guy? What kind of pickup line is this? A Western one? Immediately, she said coldly, "I didn't see it." Then she walked away without even saying a word. Thor frowned. Aren't the humans on Earth too cold? Even if we as guardians didn't see it, we wouldn't talk like that, right? But finding the hammer was more important, so Thor didn't think too much about it and looked around again. Finally, he found a well-dressed young man standing on the side of the road. This guy is well-dressed, he should be more polite. Immediately, he quickly stepped forward and asked, "Excuse me, did you see a hammer flying through the sky?" Hammer? Flying through the sky? The young man blinked and thought, could this foreigner be a psychopath? However, looking at his clear and somewhat anxious eyes, he didn't look like a psychopath. The young man thought about it. Then, he gave up thinking. Never mind. Since this foreigner's looking for something, let's just lure him in first. He's a foreigner, I'll make some money. With that thought, the young man's face immediately changed into a smile. Hammer? Yes. Come with me. With that, the young man in the suit pulled Thor into the shop and called out, "VIP. Please come to a private room." Thor didn't think much of it when he heard the man mention seeing a hammer, and hurriedly followed him inside. However, he didn't know that the sign outside the shop read Red Romantic Foot Massage City. Thor had to admit, his lack of education had cost him the day. Meanwhile, in Asgard, Thor's 4 friends were arguing. Our best friend has been exiled, Loki has usurped the throne, and is attempting to start a war with the frost giants. And yet you managed to devour 4 boars, 6 pheasants, half an ox, and 2 barrels of beer. Shame on you. Don't you care about Thor's safety or the impending war in Asgard? He angrily overturned one of the men's plates. With a loud thud, the food scatters across the floor. The man whose plate had been knocked over immediately stood up, angrily barking, "Don't mistake my good appetite for indifference, you." Seeing the 2 men about to fight, Sif quickly shouted, "Enough." Then, she and another man separated the 2 men from each other. Sif glared at them both and said, "We should go find Thor instead of just sitting here fuming and bickering." These words startled the 2 men. Loki is king now, and Thor has been exiled. He's no longer a prince of Asgard. What we're doing is treason, but we can't care less now. The king is asleep. If Loki is allowed to start a war, Asgard and Jotunheim will inevitably suffer massive casualties. We must prevent this from happening, Sif said firmly. The 2 arguing men sank into silence. The other man hushed and lowered his voice, "Keep your voice down. Don't let Heimdall know." Heimdall possessed eyes that could see all 9 realms. However, the fact that he had warned Sif meant that he also supported the search for Thor. The two arguing men pondered for a moment before making up their minds and deciding to retrieve Thor. Thor was led into a private room. The waiter who led the way smiled and said, "Please sit down and wait a moment." Thor was puzzled as to why he had been brought into the room. But then he realized that perhaps the person who knew about the situation was busy and that he needed to wait for him. Without further thought, he found a seat and sat down. A moment later, a male technician pushed open the door, carrying a wooden bucket. "Hello, Technician 666 is here to serve you." Thor was puzzled, confused by what he meant. But then he thought, could he be someone in the know? Just as Thor was wondering, Technician 666 had already helped Thor remove his shoes and socks. But he immediately smelled something. "Boss, your feet smell quite strong." With that, he placed Thor's feet in the wooden bucket. Suddenly, Thor felt a sense of relaxation. A look of comfort crossed Thor's face. He had already traveled a long way and was already exhausted, his feet sore. Now, after soaking, he felt his feet melt, and a sense of comfort spread from his feet all the way up his spine to the top of his head. But then he remembered something, straightened his back, and asked Technician 666, "Do you know where the hammer is?" "Hammer?" The technician was stunned. Immediately, he realized what was going on and said, "Oh, yes. Boss, don't worry, just wait a moment." Hearing the wait, Thor felt a little anxious, but there was nothing he could do but wait. After soaking for a while, the technician took Thor's foot out and wiped it dry. Then, after applying essential oil to his hands, he began to massage Thor's right foot. Thor immediately felt a comfort he had never experienced since birth, spreading from the sole of his foot throughout his body. "This feels so good," Thor thought to himself, his body completely relaxed at that moment, even closing his eyes. Under Technician number 666's manipulation, he gradually became completely intoxicated, completely lost in thought. Meanwhile, outside the Red Romantic Foot Spa, 4 foreigners dressed in strange clothes, resembling those of the Western Middle Ages, approached. They were none other than Sif and the other 4. Chapter 6, Wash Your Feet, Everyone, Come in and wash your feet. Chapter 6, Wash your feet, everyone, get in and wash your feet. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 6, Wash your feet, everyone, get in and wash your feet. The 4 people's attire drew the curiosity of passers-by. What's with those 4 foreigners? They're probably cosplaying. Mom, what's that? Baby, they're not normal people. Sif and the other 3 carefully observed their surroundings. Earth belonged to the Atrium and was a low-level planet, so they had never been here before and didn't know if it was dangerous. However, it was always wise to be cautious. Sif and the other 3 stopped in front of the Red Romantic Foot Bathing City. Sif said, "Heimdall said Thor is inside." The other 3 didn't say anything, but they also looked at the building before them. For some reason, Heimdall had turned a blind eye and allowed them to use the Rainbow Bridge to reach Earth, and even told them Thor's location. For now, let's just assume he also wanted to find Thor and bring him back, Sif and the other 3 thought. Sif immediately gathered her thoughts and looked at the young man standing at the door. She asked bluntly, "Where's Thor?" This young man was the waiter who had tricked Thor into a footbath earlier. He'd noticed Sif and the other 3's attire, but hadn't expected them to come, so he was a bit surprised. But hearing the question, the waiter immediately realized what was going on. Thor? Could they be talking about that silly foreigner from earlier? Were they his friends? The waiter looked Sif up and down, and the more he thought about it, the more certain it was. Then, without further ado, he stopped thinking. Since they're looking for that silly foreigner, then let's all go in for a foot bath. The waiter smiled and said, "He's inside. Please follow me." Sif and the other 3 didn't think twice and followed the waiter inside. The waiter happily called out to the front desk, 4 more distinguished guests. Sif and the other 3 were led to Thor's private room. Thor lay prone, his upper body naked, his skin as slippery as if greased with oil. Another man, holding a wooden hammer, was repeatedly tapping Thor's back, making a click-click sound. Thor occasionally made pleasant noises, looking completely at ease, which made the 4 people wonder if they had opened the door the wrong way. Although they didn't know what Thor was doing, they could tell he seemed quite comfortable. They were relieved to be safe. However, the situation in Asgard was critical. Sif stepped forward and said, "Thor." Thor turned around and saw Sif and the others. His eyes lit up and he asked in surprise, "Why are you here?" Then, a thought struck him. He beckoned, "Come on, come try it all. The humans here have a magic that relaxes you." Thor wanted to share his goodness with his 4 friends, so they could relax too. But Sif wasn't in the mood. She frowned and said, "Something's happened in Asgard." Thor's pupils shrank at this. Although exiled, he still yearned for Asgard and longed to reclaim the hammer and return. Thor's enjoyment instantly faded, and he asked seriously, "What happened?" "Loki wants to start a war against the frost giants." "How could that be?" Thor was surprised. "Where's my father? After banishing you, the king fell into deep sleep, and now Loki is king of Asgard," another friend said. This was a shocking blow to Thor, his head buzzing. His father fell into deep sleep? Why would that be? Now Loki is king of Asgard, and he wants to start a war? Thor was unsettled. After being banished to Earth by Odin, he had come to his senses. He had likely fallen prey to Loki's scheme to lead his friends to attack the frost giants. Now it seemed that this was confirmed. Loki had been eyeing the throne of Asgard from the beginning. But as the eldest son, he couldn't inherit the throne, so he orchestrated all this. "No. We have to stop him." But how? Thor was terrified, his mind a mess. Suddenly, an idea struck him. Oh, Mjolnir. Thor remembered his hammer. Only by retrieving it could he return to Asgard and stop Loki. He quickly glanced at Technician 666, standing by, and eagerly asked, "Where's my hammer?" "What?" Technician 666 had overheard their entire conversation, but he didn't understand a word. Asgard, Loki? Aren't those things from Norse mythology? But then, a second later, he realized. Were these actors rehearsing their lines? These foreigners were really good at rehearsing lines. But he wasn't going to play along. Besides, he didn't know what to say. "Isn't the hammer right here?" The technician waved a small wooden hammer in his hand. Upon seeing this, Thor realized he'd been tricked. He angrily declared, "That's not the hammer I'm looking for." He leaped out of bed, shoes off, and shouted to Sif and the other 3, "Let's go and retrieve Mjolnir." Sif and the other 3 were startled. "Mjolnir is on Earth too?" "Yes," Thor said. "Father banished me to Earth and threw Mjolnir here too." Sif and the other 3 immediately understood Odin's intentions. Perhaps he wasn't abandoning Thor, but rather wanted to punish him, to teach him the lesson. Thor and the other 3 ran out. Technician 666 was stunned by this, then quickly realized what was happening. He ran out and shouted to Thor and the other 3, who had already reached the lobby, "Stop them. They're trying to clean up the tyrant's feed." These words startled the waiter and security guard downstairs. Crap, clean up the tyrant's feed in broad daylight. They quickly rushed forward and stopped Thor and the other 3. Worried about the situation in Asgard, Thor immediately shouted, "What are you doing? Get out of the way. I'm the Prince of Asgard, Odin's eldest son. How dare you stop me?" "What nonsense," the lobby manager shouted angrily. "You want to clean up the tyrant's feet? Come on, beat them up, and then call the police." "Yes," his men replied. But just then, there was a sudden, loud bang, and a blast of air rushed over, instantly sending the lobby manager and his men flying. Thor and his 4 companions were also caught in the blow, flying backwards and hitting the wall. The scene was in chaos. The gate was shattered, and there were shattered glass and rubble everywhere. The crystal chandelier fell to the ground, sending dust billowing. Thor, deprived of his divine powers, was now only slightly stronger than an ordinary person. He was dazed and struggled to his feet, his ears filled with a roaring sound. He shook his head, trying to regain consciousness, but saw a dozen giants made of black steel standing outside. Destroyer, Thor's pupils shrank. Chapter 7 The Destroyer attacks Thor. Chapter 7 The Destroyer attacks Thor, 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster Chapter 7 The Destroyer attacks Thor. 1 minute ago. Oh my god, look up in the sky. What's that? Another meteor. What's going on today? Why so many meteors? What meteors? How can there be so many meteors? They might be aliens. Are aliens going to invade Earth? Judging from the current situation, it's very possible. Huh? Then what should we do? Lin Feng was also standing at the window. Listening to the worried voices, he looked up at the distant sky, where 18 brilliant meteors appeared. That must be the destroyer sent by Loki to kill Thor, right? Lin Feng asked. In the movie, Loki sent one destroyer to kill Thor. However, his time travel had triggered a butterfly effect. Even the crash site of Thor and Mjolnir had changed, landing in China. So it's no surprise that Loki sent more destroyers. The time has come for me to take action, Lin Feng said excitedly. He was obsessed with completing his heroic mission. Destroyer, Thor's eyes widened in shock, unable to believe the Iron Giant before him had appeared. Sif and the other three struggled to their feet. They were Asgardians, their divine powers unrestricted, and therefore in far better condition than Thor. As for the lobby manager and the others, they were all unconscious. Destroyer, Sif and the other three, upon seeing the situation outside, were horrified and shaken. How could so many destroyers have arrived on Earth? I don't know, Loki. Suddenly, Sif's face lit up with shock. Only the king can activate the destroyer. Loki must have used the king's scepter to activate it. Sif looked at Thor, her face filled with anxiety. Thor, this is Loki who sent you. He wants to kill you. Your presence threatens his throne, and only by killing you can he maintain his position securely. Thor's heart trembled, and he instantly realized what was happening. Although he didn't want to admit it, the current situation showed that Sif was right. Damn it, Loki is completely mad. What should we do now? Sif's face was filled with anxiety. With so many destroyers, they simply couldn't handle them. But there was no other way now. Even if they couldn't, they had to deal with them. With this thought in mind, she addressed Thor again. Thor, run. The four of us will cover your retreat. The other three immediately understood Sif's intention. But none of them objected, acquiescing to the decision. Loki had gone mad, and Thor was the only one who could stop him. But Thor immediately objected. No, you're no match for the destroyers, especially with so many of them. The destroyers were Asgard's weapons of war, incredibly powerful, and solely under the king's command. Thor knew Sif and the other three were no match for the destroyers, and he didn't want to send them to their deaths. There's nothing we can do, Sif said with a firm gaze. For Asgard, you must survive and find Mjolnir. With that, she summoned her weapons and charged forward. The other three also summoned their weapons and rushed forward with shouts. Come back. Come back quickly, Thor shouted anxiously. But Sif and the other three didn't listen to him at all. They attacked one of the destroyers head-on and engaged in a fight. The humans around them had already taken cover after the explosion. Meanwhile, Director Chen Haitian of the Chinese National Security Department was on his way with his troops. Chen Haitian sat in the car, looking at the tablet in his hand, which was playing a video. In the video, more than a dozen colorful rainbows fell from the sky, and then transformed into more than a dozen steel giants after landing on the ground. Then, one of them launched a beam attack at a shop called Red Romantic Footbath City. With a boom, the storefront was blown open, and smoke and dust billowed. Passers-by were screaming and running away all around. The scene was full of panic and chaos. Each of these 18 iron giants looked identical, at least 3 or 4 meters tall. They seemed almost spiritual, even possessing a sense of being somewhere between living and mechanical. In short, they didn't resemble earthly technology. Even Tony Stark couldn't create such an iron giant. But why were they attacking the foot massage parlor? Was it an illegal place? That couldn't be right. Even if it wasn't, there was no need for aliens to deploy alien technology to deal with it. Chen Haitian frowned, puzzled. But that wasn't the point. They were almost at the point where the iron giants had appeared. They couldn't just ignore them, or the citizens would be in danger. Bang, 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 after a fierce exchange, Sif and the other 4 were sent flying. Damn it, Thor, observing this, was distraught. He didn't choose to flee. There was no way he could abandon his friends and escape on his own under these circumstances. Asgard. Loki and the Destroyer shared a view. Loki witnessed this scene and sneered, "You're overestimating your own abilities." Loki had only activated one destroyer to fight them, not all 18. If he had, he would have instantly killed them. Destroyer, kill those 4, Loki ordered again. Sif and the other 4 wanted to help Thor, they couldn't be spared. The destroyer, engaged in battle with Sif and the other 4, received the order and advanced toward Sif. But just then, a voice boomed through a megaphone, "Iron giants ahead, we are Chinese soldiers. You are surrounded. Surrender now, or we will take action." Chen Haitian arrived with his troops, shouting through a megaphone. The citizens hiding in the building heard the call and saw the military arrival, filled with joy. They were saved. The destroyer stopped, turned, and looked at Chen Haitian. Then, a fiery red light appeared on its chest. With a roar, A fiery red beam shot out from its face, striking the ground and streaking towards Chen Haitian and the others. Feeling the scorching air rushing towards him, Chen Haitian's face paled. Without a second thought, he quickly shoved his assistant aside and dove to the ground. With a roar, a streak of light streaked across the ground, slamming into the car and exploding it. Flaming car parts flew everywhere, and many soldiers were caught in the shockwaves of the explosion, while others were slammed into the burning gasoline and car parts. There were screams and flames. Just this one blow had cost them many casualties. Damn it, Chen Haitian gritted his teeth at the sight. They'd launched an attack without a word. Are they invading? He immediately rose from the ground and shouted into his walkie-talkie, attack. Kill them. Kill them. With that, soldiers appeared from all directions, firing assault rifles at the 18 steel giants. Some even attacked with rocket launchers. Dang, 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 but the bullets hit the destroyer, making only a clanging sound, without any effect at all. Not even leaving a scratch. And the rockets fired from the bazooka bombarded the destroyer, except for making it retreat half a step and exploding into a ball of fire and smoke, with no other effect. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Lin Feng arrives as Sun Wukong. Chapter 8 Lin Feng pretends to be Sun Wukong and attacks. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 8 Lin Feng pretends to be Sun Wukong and attacks. But Sif and the others were stunned. They didn't expect that there would be such a long-range attack method on this low-level planet. However, it is useless and can't cause any damage to the destroyer. This is Asgard's war weapon, extremely powerful. The citizens who were hiding were also dumbfounded when they saw this. They didn't expect that these steel giants would not be hurt at all under such an attack by the military. Damn, what metal are these iron lumps made of? Chen Haitian said anxiously. Do we need to mobilize heavy firepower weapons? But will there be enough time for evacuation? Bringing in heavy firepower weapons means that a large-scale evacuation of citizens will be carried out. But now there is not enough time and manpower. Loki and the destroyer share the same vision. Seeing the current situation, his face was filled with silence. He snorted coldly, humble earth ants, dare you dare challenge a god? Destroyers, kill them all. Bang, the scepter slammed heavily into the ground, emitting a deep, humming sound. Enraged by the Earthlings' use of force, Loki activated all 18 destroyers, intending to kill every Earthling present. But a fiery red light appeared where the destroyers' eyes would be. Immediately, they collectively moved, bearing the barrage of bullets and rockets, charging in all directions. Then, a fiery red light began to appear on their chests, and a glow began to fill their faces. Seeing this, Chen Haitian's pupils constricted, recalling the moment before the destroyer's attack. He quickly picked up the intercom and shouted, "Stop the attack! Find cover! They're about to launch a beam attack." What? The soldiers were startled. They had all seen the beam blast the car. That's quite powerful. For a moment, all the soldiers panicked, shouting retreat and searching for cover. The scene resembled the frail creatures fleeing for their lives in the face of a natural disaster. But just then, a wild and unruly voice echoed from the sky, "Hey! Where did you come from, monster? How dare you run wild here? Don't harm anyone. Take this blow from me, old son." A fiery red light swooped down. Chen Haitian, strategically dodging, was startled by the sight, then reacted. Old son? It's him. Why is he here? Hearing old son, Chen Haitian remembered the cry, old son, am leaving. This newcomer must be the owner of that voice. Thor also heard this, and as he looked at the fiery red light swooping down from the sky, he recognized it as the hairy-faced monster he had encountered. But Sif and the others were puzzled by the scene. Suddenly, a fiery red light transformed into a domineering figure. It swooped down at a destroyer and swung an iron rod. With a clang, it struck the destroyer like a baseball bat, sending it flying. With a thud, it embedded itself into the wall. Huh? This doesn't feel like flesh and blood. Lin Feng knew the other person was a destroyer, not a living being. But he was playing the role of Sun Wukong, and Sun Wukong didn't know this, so he had to pretend he didn't. But seeing the person appear like this, and sending the destroyer flying with a single blow of his rod, Chen Haitian was stunned. He couldn't believe his eyes, and his worldview collapsed. Someone could actually transform into light. How could they do that? Sif and the others were also stunned, as if they had witnessed something incredible. Who is this person? He had actually sent the destroyer flying with a single rod. Could such a powerful being exist on this low-level planet? Thor was also deeply shocked. However, he reconsidered. The fact that the other party could lift Mjolnir, even though his father had placed a barrier on it, proved to be quite powerful. Although I don't know the identity of this hairy-faced man, judging by his attack on the destroyer, I can rule out him being sent by Loki. But can he handle 18 destroyers? Thor didn't know the man's strength. But he knew the destroyer. It was an extremely powerful weapon. Right now, this hairy-faced man might be able to handle one destroyer, but if he faced 18, he would surely be defeated. Asgard. Seeing this, Loki was completely bewildered. Who is this hairy-faced man? He had never seen anyone like him around Thor, so this person couldn't be Thor's friend. Either he was a native of Earth, or not. But Earth was a low-level planet, and such a powerful being couldn't possibly exist, so it had to be the latter. Then, without further consideration, Loki concluded, no matter who this person was, anyone who aided Thor must die. With 18 destroyers in hand, anyone who stood in my way would die, Loki sneered. He was completely confident that he could defeat Lin Feng. Destroyer, attack. Boom, the destroyer, embedded in the wall, struggled out, seemingly unharmed. However, the spot where Lin Feng's club had struck him was dented. Huh? Lin Feng exclaimed in surprise. You monster, you took my club, and you're still standing. Lin Feng had come here to complete a heroic mission, and to showcase the image of Sun Wukong to the public, officially beginning to promote Chinese mythology. The destroyer regained his footing, a fiery red glow emanating from his chest, and his face began to glow. Seeing this, Lin Feng exclaimed in delight, you didn't take that one blow just now, so let's try taking Grandpa Sun's club again. Ah, Lin Feng roared, leaping over 10 meters high. He then clenched his golden cudgel and hurled it at the destroyer. The destroyer, in turn, unleashed a burst of light, blasting towards Lin Feng. Bang, boom boom boom, the golden cudgel collided with the light with a deafening roar. However, the light didn't slow the club's descent. Lin Feng was unstoppable. The golden cudgel, with its immense force, smashed against the light and hit the destroyer's head. With a loud bang, the ground collapsed, forming a cracked crater. The destroyer was smashed into a pile of scrap metal, embedded in the center of the crater. No longer shining, it had become a dead object. Everyone was stunned by this scene. Chen Haitian couldn't believe his eyes. Thor and the others were even more so. They knew the power of the destroyer. It was a weapon of war from the divine realm of Asgard, but now it had been destroyed by a single blow from a hairy-faced weirdo. Where did this person come from? Such a powerful being shouldn't exist on this low-level planet. Could it be that he was from Zeus's side? Thor and the others became increasingly curious about Lin Feng's background. Bang! 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 Lin Feng used his golden cudgel to poke the destroyer, which had become scrap metal, and exclaimed in surprise, how bizarre. This thing isn't flesh and blood, it doesn't even have a soul. Yet, it possesses a spirit. What a marvel, what a marvel. Asgard. Loki couldn't believe his eyes when he saw this scene. Chapter 9 17 Destroyers attack Lin Feng. Chapter 9 17 Destroyers attack Lin Feng, 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster Chapter 9 17 Destroyers attack Lin Feng. Loki had just shared a view with a destroyer that had been reduced to scrap metal. So when Lin Feng's golden cudgel came crashing down, he felt it most directly, as if it were about to hide him. Moreover, he felt an overwhelming sense of power. In that instant, his hair stood on end, his scalp tingled, and a cold sweat broke out. Who is this man? Loki frowned. But then, without further thought, he regained his indifferent demeanor. Whoever helps Thor will die. Destroyer, kill him, bang! Loki slammed his scepter heavily onto the smooth floor tiles, a heavy sound echoing. He urged the remaining 17 destroyers to attack together. A single destroyer could easily deal with Thor, who had lost all his divine power and Mjolnir. However, Loki, wanting to avoid any mistakes or accidents, dispatched 18 destroyers. Unexpectedly, all 18 would eventually be used. Under the onslaught of so many destroyers, that hairy-faced creature would surely perish. Buzz a dense humming sound echoed, and the remaining 17 destroyers' eyes flashed red before collectively charging towards Lin Feng. Not good. Chen Haitian, who had strategically returned, saw this scene, and his expression changed drastically. One iron giant could defeat him, but how could 17 iron giants attack him all at once? Chen Haitian felt extremely uneasy. If this old sun was defeated, the entire city would likely fall. Thor and the others' pupils shrank, their hearts trembling with fear. The destroyers were incredibly powerful. Once, Odin dispatched just 6 destroyers and easily wiped out a notorious interstellar bandit group. Now, with the 17 attacking together, this old sun would undoubtedly be defeated. What should they do? Just as they were worried, 17 destroyers rushed toward Lin Feng and launched their attack. Lin Feng watched as the 17 destroyers flew towards him, blocking his path. He laughed wildly, "Ha ha ha, all of you, huh? Then I'll show you Grandpa Sun's skills, ah!" Lin Feng roared, the concrete floor shattering as he launched himself outward like a cannonball. Holding his golden cudgel, he engaged the 17 destroyers. Dang, 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 ha! The 17 destroyers and Lin Feng engaged in a fierce back and forth, a fierce battle, the clash of swords unceasing. Everyone present was stunned by this scene. The battle was truly breathtaking. One man alone took on 17 destroyers. Thor and his companions were especially impressed. They had fought many battles before, but nothing like this had ever struck them. The enemy wasn't anything else but a powerful weapon of war, the destroyer. Furthermore, this old sun fought with ease, not once failing to gain the upper hand. However, this was also largely due to his swiftness. He could accurately block every destroyer's punch, kick, or beam attack, then swiftly attack the destroyer. Hit by his iron rod often left a large dent. Those present had a new appreciation for old sun's strength. At this moment, surrounded by 17 destroyers, Lin Feng roared, a fiery red light erupting from his body. He then unleashed a sweeping blow with his golden cudgel, creating a fiery red whirlwind centered around him. Bang, 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 the destroyers in all directions were swept back by the golden cudgel, slamming into the surrounding walls. Lin Feng was left with no more destroyers. Hiss! Seeing this, Chen Haitian, Thor, and the others gasped, their faces filled with astonishment. Ho ha ho ha! Lin Feng, holding his golden cudgel, laughed uninhibitedly. "You monsters, get up and fight again." Asgard. Loki was also horrified by this scene. He hadn't expected this hairy-faced monster's strength to surpass his imagination. However, in the face of sheer strength, everything was predetermined. Bang! Loki pounded his scepter into the ground, a deep, humming sound emanating. Destroyers, unleash your death ray together and kill this hairy-faced monster. Boom, 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 17 destroyers emerged from the wall simultaneously. Some had broken arms, lame legs, collapsed shoulders, or had a bruised head. However, they were still able to move. They stood firm and, in unison, charged towards Lin Feng. A fiery red light began to emanate from their chests, and their faces also began to glow. It was obvious that they were about to unleash their ray. Oh no! Chen Haitian, Thor, and the others' faces changed drastically. They all knew the power of this ray. With so many destroyers unleashing their ray together, old sun would surely die. Seeing this, Lin Feng realized what they were about to do. Yet, he showed no fear. Instead, he extended his hand and beckoned. "Come on." Chen Haitian's scalp tingled at the sight. He realized that old sun might not be aware of the power of this beam. Remembering how it had cracked the ground and shattered a 3 or 4 ton military vehicle with a single strike, his face paled. He immediately, regardless of the danger, ran from the safe zone and shouted to Lin Feng, "Old sun, run." This beam is powerful, but he was still a step too late. As soon as he finished speaking, a rumbling sound echoed as 17 destroyers simultaneously unleashed death rays towards Lin Feng's position. Bang! 17 death rays converged and collided. In an instant, a deafening roar echoed throughout the world, accompanied by a terrifying wave of scorching heat that shattered the glass in nearby buildings, sending glass crashing down. Chen Haitian, Thor, and several other soldiers were caught in the blast and sent flying backwards, only to fall back after colliding with objects. Parked cars were flipped and moved sideways. This force was terrifying. Woo, 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 the car alarms blared incessantly. Chen Haitian's back ached, his skin flushed from the scorching air, but thankfully, he wasn't burned. He struggled to his feet, but his ears were filled with a buzzing sound. His head and face were covered in dust, and he looked utterly disheveled. He shook his head, forcing himself to wake up, but it was no use, his mind remained hazy. He glanced around again, his heart sinking. So horrific. Suddenly, a thought struck him, and he glanced towards Lin Feng's location. But there was no one there, and his heart sank. It's over. Old Sun is defeated. Not even a body left. Chen Haitian had considered Old Sun the superhero who had saved them. But now that the superhero had perished, what was he to do? Did he really need to bring in heavy weaponry? But what about this city? What about its citizens? Chen Haitian felt helpless for a moment, thinking, if China had gods like Western countries, he could ask for their help. But China doesn't have gods. Thor and his companions also struggled to get up from the ground. Seeing the tragedy around them, they were also shocked. Immediately, they looked towards where Lin Feng was, but there was no one there, not even a corpse. They were immediately panicked. Old Sun was dead, and there was not even a body left. Chapter 10, Beat them all up. Beat them all up. Chapter 10, Smash them all, 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 10, Smash them all. Smash them all. Ho ha ho ha, Loki, clutching his scepter, roared with laughter. The hairy-faced monster who had blocked his path was dead. Now, no one could stop him. Thor must die. And all the earthlings around here, who dare to attack a god, must die, Loki shouted fiercely. But 17 destroyers began to move in all directions. Some headed for Chen Haitian, others for Thor and his companions, clearly intent on annihilating everyone present. Not good. Chen Haitian's face trembled with panic at the sight. He immediately ordered his soldiers to prepare for a second attack. While it had no effect, it could hold them off for a while. There was no time to hesitate, they had to deploy high destructive weapons. Thor and his companions also tensed. Sif and the other three wore resolute expressions, weapons in hand, ready to sacrifice their lives in battle. The destroyer was already swooping in all directions, intent on annihilating everyone present. But just then, a defiant voice echoed from the sky, "You monsters, is this all you have?" Hearing this, the panicked Chen Haitian was startled, and without hesitation, he looked up at the sky. He saw a figure standing there. It was Lao Sun. It's him. He didn't die. Chen Haitian was ecstatic. This moment was even more exciting than when he scored over 650 on the college entrance exam. Then, he remembered something and quickly picked up the intercom and shouted, "Don't attack yet. Don't attack." Lao Sun hadn't died yet, and the battle wasn't over yet. An attack would likely hit Lao Sun after issuing a hasty order. Chen Haitian returned his gaze to the figure in the sky. That figure, standing in the sky with a fiery red cape fluttering in the wind and carrying an iron rod, was simply stunning. Thor and the others were stunned by this scene. Old Sun wasn't dead. He was still alive. However, just as everyone was excited that Lin Feng hadn't died, Loki was enraged by this scene. Damn it, he's not dead? Did he jump into the air just in time to dodge the attack? Loki thought to himself. But then, he didn't think much about it. Since I missed, let's try again. Loki immediately activated a destroyer and continued his attack on Lin Feng. But the destroyer suddenly stopped, turned around, and looked up at Lin Feng in the sky. Lin Feng had indeed dodged the destroyer's beam by evading it. But it wouldn't have been a problem if he hadn't dodged. Although he only had 10% of Sun Wukong's power, Sun Wukong was a being that couldn't even be refined in the 8 trigrams furnace. How could the destroyer's beam harm him? Seeing this, Lin Feng dismissively said, "You monsters, it's your grandfather Sun's turn to take action." Ah, bang! Lin Feng swooped down swiftly, his speed so fast it caused a sonic boom. Raising his golden cudgel, he smashed it hard on the head of one of the destroyers. With a loud bang, the ground collapsed, creating a cracked crater. The destroyer had been reduced to a pile of scrap metal, embedded in the center of the crater. Lin Feng swiftly transformed into a fiery red light and charged towards another destroyer. Then, revealing his true form, he also raised his golden cudgel and, with immense force, smashed it hard on the head. Bang! The ground collapsed, creating a crack. This destroyer, too, transformed into an irregular discus. Embedded in the center of the cracked crater, Lin Feng transformed into another ball of fiery red light and charged towards another destroyer. When he reached it, he revealed his true form and brought down his cudgel, smashing it into a discus. Then the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. Seeing Lin Feng physically crush the iron giant with such brutal force, Chen Haitian was in shock. He had never imagined his old son possessed such strength. He had assumed old son would lose from the start. Hiss, Chen Haitian gasped, coming back to his senses. Seeing Lin Feng crush the destroyer with such ferocity filled him with excitement and inspiration. He wished he had the same strength, to crush an entire iron giant with a single blow. It was simply too impressive. But unfortunately, he didn't have such ability. This kind of strength is incredible. If Chinese mythology existed, wouldn't the gods in those stories be depicted in this way? Seeing Lin Feng, dressed in ancient attire, transform into a streak of fiery red light and charge towards a destroyer, then revealing his true form, he brought his club down with a resounding roar, crushing the iron giant into a discus, embedding it in the pit. Chen Haitian pondered this inwardly. Little did he know, this time, his guess was correct. Thor and the others were also deeply shocked. They had never imagined that one day, the destroyers would be destroyed in this way. Asgard. Loki was completely stunned. He couldn't believe his eyes. The destroyers were being crushed one by the hairy-faced monster's iron rod. Damn it, Loki was furious. He knew he had underestimated the hairy-faced monster's strength. Where did he come from? How could he be so powerful? Loki was once again curious about the hairy-faced monster's origins. And at this moment, his murderous intent towards the hairy-faced monster was even greater than Thor's. He had sent these 18 destroyers to kill Thor, but now they had all been destroyed by Lin Feng. It was like a Chang Yaojin suddenly appeared and ruined his plan. Bang! A loud noise sounded. The ground collapsed, forming a cracked crater. A irregular discus appeared in the center of the crater. This was the last destroyer. With this, all 18 destroyers had been destroyed by Lin Feng. And each one had been violently smashed into discus. Lin Feng landed on the ground, hefting the golden cudgel onto his shoulder, and gazed at the irregular discus in the pit. After destroying these destroyers, I should be able to complete the hero mission, right? Lin Feng thought to himself. Sure enough, a system notification chimed in his ears. Ling. Congratulations, Master, on completing the hero mission, shock points reward being calculated, calculation completed, congratulations, Master, on receiving 5,000 shock points, 5,000 points? That's a lot, Lin Feng was delighted. Shock points can be used to purchase character cards, so the more the better. Then, unlocking character cards for countless gods and Buddhas, showcasing all the myths and legends of China, wouldn't that be awesome? The more Lin Feng thought about it, the more excited he became. Also, after I finish this role-playing, there will be role-playing points calculated. I wonder how many role-playing points I can earn after a battle, Lin Feng added. Role-playing points can be used to upgrade role-playing privileges and gain stronger character abilities, so the more the better. Chen Haitian, seeing the battle over, breathed a sigh of relief. The city had been saved. Immediately, he turned to Lin Feng. If old son hadn't shown up this time, the consequences would have been disastrous. But who exactly is he? How could he possess such incredible power? Chen Haitian hesitated, then walked towards Lin Feng. He intended to inquire about his identity. Since he was helping them, he wasn't a bad person, he needed to learn more. However, facing such an unknown and powerful being, one must show the utmost respect. Chapter 11 Odin wakes up and Loki is frightened. Chapter 11 Odin wakes up, and Loki is frightened. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 11 Odin wakes up, and Loki is frightened. Chen Haitian walked behind Lin Feng and said respectfully, Mr. Son. Lin Feng turned around with a golden hoop on his shoulder, looked up and down at Chen Haitian, and guessed that he should be the leader of a certain department. However, he is now playing the role of Sun Wukong, so he has to speak from the perspective of Sun Wukong. He smiled and said, Young man, these monsters have been killed, there is no need to be afraid. Hearing this, Chen Haitian was completely sure that the other party was here to rescue them. But why is the way he spoke a little weird? It seems like there is a different emotion in it. And why does he call me young man? Chen Haitian was a little confused. However, he didn't dwell on it and said respectfully again, Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Sun, for coming to rescue us. May I ask what your full name is, Mr. Sun, Mr. Sun? What kind of strange title is that? My name is Sun Wukong, and my title is, the Great Sage Equaling Heaven. Lin Feng pounded his golden cudgel into the ground with a thud. The Great Sage Equaling Heaven. Chen Haitian was startled. Although he had never heard of him, He seemed incredibly overbearing. Then, great sage equaling heaven, Sun Wukong, where do you live? Chen Haitian wanted to inquire. Home, Lin Feng thought for a moment, then suddenly became melancholy. He gazed into the distance and said, time has passed, the world has changed. It's better not to mention it. These words left Chen Haitian bewildered. What did he mean? But seeing Lin Feng's melancholy expression, he thought for a moment and decided not to ask further. Perhaps there was a reason he didn't want to talk about. Just as Chen Haitian was figuring things out, Lin Feng looked at him again and said, young man, the monster has been slain. I should be leaving now. See you later. With that, he leaped straight ahead, transforming into a streak of fiery red light and soaring away at breakneck speed. Soon, he was out of sight. Chen Haitian watched, stunned. As Lin Feng flew away, he had sensed a mysterious power emanating from him. It had deeply moved him, and he couldn't help but imagine how wonderful it would be if he too possessed such power, the ability to fly and burrow into the earth. However, he had actually wanted to invite Lin Feng to join the nation. With such power, joining would be truly wonderful. But before he could even think of saying it, Lin Feng had flown away. Forget it. If we have another chance to meet, we'll bring it up then, Chen Haitian said. He then turned to look at Thor and the others. After a moment's thought, he stepped over. Thor, Sif, and the other four had gathered together. The five of them were still shaken by the battle. Then, seeing a human from Earth approach, they all grew wary. Chen Haitian walked up to them, raised his hand in a salute, and then, with a businesslike demeanor completely different from his earlier approach to Lin Feng, said, those steel giants were coming for you five, weren't they? Upon arriving at the scene, Chen Haitian saw only Thor and his four companions were present. Furthermore, Sif and the other four were dressed strangely, which made him wonder if they were coming for them. After all, aliens wouldn't use alien technology to attack a foot massage parlor. It was simply too abstract. Yes, Thor nodded truthfully. Hearing this, Chen Haitian confirmed his suspicions and said, your identities are questionable. Please come with us for investigation. Thor initially wanted to refuse, as he still had to search from Mjolnir and return to Asgard to confront Loki. But turning back, he saw that Sif and the other four were injured, so he agreed. He then asked you if he could help treat several of his friends who were injured. Of course, Chen Haitian nodded, then picked up the intercom and gave the order. After everything was settled, his cell phone suddenly rang. Chen Haitian pulled out his phone, but upon seeing the caller ID, his expression immediately tensed. He answered without hesitation. Hello, this is Chen Haitian. Director Chen, SHIELD has sent a notification saying that a terrorist group has stolen an important item and is smuggling it into Aodu, China. Is that true? Chen Haitian's face was startled. Yes, the other party continued. According to them, this item is extremely dangerous. You must immediately drop what you are doing and head to Aodu to arrest this terrorist group. We must not let them commit any crimes in Aodu. Yes, Chen Haitian replied. The call ended. Chen Haitian stared at his phone, his thoughts uncertain. Meanwhile, in Asgard, Loki sat gloomily on his throne, his scepter still clutched in his right hand. His plan to send the destroyer to kill Thor had failed, leaving him furious. Thor was his stumbling block. Only with his death could he secure his throne. I must find another way to kill Thor, and that old son. Loki gritted his teeth. Old son had ruined his plans, he must not be spared. But at that moment, something strange happened. A terrifying will locked onto Loki. At the same time, a majestic, furious voice echoed through the palace. Loki. Loki's hair stood on end, his soul trembling with fear. It's Odin. How did he awaken? Loki's face paled, his mind trembling. He had never expected Odin, already slumbering, to suddenly awaken. Loki had no time to consider. With Odin's power, he must have known of his impending war against Jotunheim and his plans to send the destroyer to kill Thor. What would happen if he caught him? Loki quickly lowered his scepter, cast a spell, and slunk into the shadows, stealing away. The moment he left, there was a rumbling sound, and a beam of colorful holy light descended upon the throne. The light dissipated, revealing Odin's aged figure. Had Loki left even a second later, he would have come face to face with Odin. Odin stared at the empty throne, his expression filled with sorrow and worry. Damn it! How did he suddenly wake up? Loki emerged from the darkness, his face filled with resentment and anger. His war plan to destroy Jotunheim was about to begin, but now that Odin had awakened, the throne had automatically returned to Odin, and he could no longer control Asgard. No, this is not the time to be resigned, Loki frantically said. I need to find a place to hide. If Odin catches me, it's over. He had sent the destroyer to kill Thor, and was planning a war against Jotunheim. Odin would certainly not let him off the hook. But where can the 9 realms hide? Heimdall's eyes can always see me. Loki was frantic, his composure and demeanor gone. Suddenly, he saw a rift in space beneath the Rainbow Bridge, and an idea struck him. Perhaps I can use these dimensional cracks to hide from Heimdall's eyes. He can't see what's going on inside them. These cracks hold unknown dangers, and jumping in would almost certainly mean death. But there was no other way, only a chance. After all, if Odin caught me, there would be no good outcome. Loki took a deep breath, his face a look of determination, and rushed forward. Without hesitation, he jumped, his figure submerged in the dimensional crack. Chapter 12 found the information about Sun Wukong. Chapter 12, Sun Wukong's information found, 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 12, Sun Wukong's information found. News of the destroyer's arrival on Earth has spread online. So many citizens were hiding at the scene. Furthermore, citizens from other streets were filming videos with their phones and posting them online. Such videos were incredibly shocking and viral, so they quickly spread and caused a huge outcry. Even more shocking than when the Iron Man video was released in the US. Netizens saw the video show a dozen colorful rainbows descending from the sky. Upon landing, a dozen steel giants appeared. Each of these giants stood 3 or 4 meters tall. One of them then fired a beam at a shop called Red Romantic Foot Massage City. Then, 4 foreigners in strange attire appeared and engaged one of the giants, but were each defeated. The Chinese military then arrived and attacked the giants. However, the artillery fire on the giants was ineffective. Instead, the Iron Giant was enraged, ready to unleash a beam to annihilate everyone present. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the sky. Hey! Where did you come from, monster? How dare you run wild here? Stop harming others and take a blow from me, old son. Then, a fiery red light swooped down from the sky, transforming into a figure who, swinging an iron rod, sent one of the Iron Giants flying. A breathtaking battle ensued. In the end, all 10 Iron Giants were reduced to discus shapes by Old Sun. Netizens were stunned, unable to believe their eyes. At the same time, their worldview collapsed. Fuck, is this video real? Are you sure it's not a movie? This is too shocking. It's not a movie, I guarantee it with my life. Because I have seen videos shot from different angles, it's not a movie. I saw it with my own eyes at the scene. I was so scared that I almost peed my pants, hiding in the building and dared not move. If it weren't for this Old Sun showing up, the people and buildings around would have been destroyed. Fuck. That was really dangerous, but where did these steel giants come from? Could they be made by Tony Stark from the United States? Impossible. The way these steel giants appeared, do you think he could have made them? And why would he do that? That's right. Use your brains upstairs, okay? Oh my god, it suddenly occurred to me, could these steel giants be alien technology? Could they be related to the previous falling colorful meteors? I think so too. And this Old Sun should be the same person who shouted Old Sun, am leaving at that time. Fuck, we thought of the same thing. Who exactly is Lao Sun? So powerful, is he an alien? For a time, the entire internet was abuzz with discussion. On Weibo, numerous trending searches for Lao Sun appeared. Lao Sun, I'm leaving. Lao Sun reveals his true form. Lao Sun's immense power. Who exactly is Lao Sun? Could he be an alien? Why does Lao Sun's clothing resemble the clothing of ancient Chinese people? Many Q&As about Lao Sun also appeared on Baidu. One of them was extremely popular. The question was, supernatural phenomena have never occurred before, so why have they been appearing one after another recently? Many people responded to this question, and one of them received a highly upvoted answer. Thinking about it, this has indeed been the case recently. Ever since Tony Stark in the United States created that Iron Man suit. We in China have experienced the colorful meteor incident. And I heard that the authorities haven't found anything at the crash site. Then there are these dozen or so steel giants with alien technology. And finally, this powerful but mysterious Old Sun. So, I wonder if our Earth has entered a special period? Will supernatural phenomena become more and more common? However, every disadvantage has its advantages. When bad things happen, good things will surely happen, like the appearance of old sun. So, everyone, be prepared. Perhaps what I'm talking about will come true, and we are about to usher in a supernatural era. This Q&A has sparked much reflection. Meanwhile, at Wukong University, history professor Feng Min was watching the most popular video online. He is one of the most prestigious professors in China, and has dedicated his life to exploring the mysteries of Chinese history. It's safe to say that his achievements are second to none in China. Feng Min has watched the video over and over again. Every time he sees Lin Feng appear, he becomes nervous and excited, his breathing quickening. The image of a monkey, holding an iron rod, with extraordinary magical powers. It's surreal. It's surreal, Feng Min exclaimed excitedly. In his middle age, he once traveled deep into the mountains to conduct archaeological excavations on an ancient ruin. Many books were unearthed there. Among them was a worm-eaten fragment, containing this image. Lin Feng's home. Swish, a fiery red light appeared out of nowhere, transforming into Lin Feng. Huh? Lin Feng exhaled, followed by a wave of excitement and thrill. This time, playing the Monkey King, he had a thoroughly enjoyable fight. It was so satisfying, so thrilling, and he still felt a bit unsatisfied. I wonder when the next heroic mission will appear, Lin Feng said with a smile. Then, with a thought, he ended the role play. Boom, a fiery red light flashed, and he returned to his original form. At this moment, the system notification sounded. Ling. This role play is being calculated. Calculation completed. Congratulations, Master. This role play earned a total of 920 points, so many. Lin Feng was a little surprised. The last time he played, he only earned 158 points. This time, Master fought, and with a combat bonus, he earned a lot of points. I see. Lin Feng thought about it and understood. Playing with combat is naturally very different from playing without combat, at least after using Sun Wukong's power for a long time. Master, including the points from your last playthrough, you currently have a total of 1078 playthrough points. Do you want to deduct 1000 points to gain Sun Wukong's level 2 playthrough privilege? The system had previously reminded him that 1000 points would grant Sun Wukong level 2 playthrough privilege. Upon hearing this, Lin Feng didn't hesitate and immediately said, Deduct, Ling. Deduction successful. You now have Sun Wukong's level 2 playthrough privilege. The next time you play Sun Wukong, you'll possess 20% of his power. Good, Lin Feng beamed. There are many powerful races in the universe, so naturally, the stronger one is, the better. System, bring up the personal dashboard, Lin Feng said. As soon as he finished speaking, a virtual dashboard appeared before his eyes. Name, Lin Feng. Character card, Sun Wukong. Level 2 playthrough privilege, Tathagata Buda. Level 1 playthrough privilege, playthrough points. Sun Wukong 78 points. Note, role-playing points cannot be used universally. A character's role-playing points can only be used for that character. Shock value. 5,990 points. Note, shock value can be used to purchase items in the store, including but not limited to mythical character cards. Chapter 13 Loki is not dead, he is in danger. Chapter 13, Loki isn't dead, he's in danger. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 13, Loki isn't dead, he's in danger. It's already nearly 6,000 shock points, and as this story unfolds and more people learn about it, the shock points are constantly increasing, Lin Feng said. The system previously stated that completing heroic missions and the buzz generated by role-playing will increase the shock points. Right now, the shock points are steadily increasing by +1. Clearly, the destruction of the destroyer is building momentum. Lin Feng smiled broadly, adding, however, there's no need to purchase other character cards for now. I still have the Tathagata Buda character card I haven't used yet. Furthermore, Sun Wukong has only just appeared to the public, and the mythology hasn't spread yet. Even if I were to roleplay another mythological figure at this point, the public wouldn't know their origins, so it wouldn't be very meaningful. So, let's wait and see. Once the mythology gradually becomes established and attracts public attention, I can then roleplay another character. This will better demonstrate the authenticity of the myth and generate more shock points. Lin Feng was playing a big game. He wanted to resurface the Chinese mythology of this world and let the public know that it was real. That way, the mythological characters he portrayed would have a story behind them, which would garner even more attention and excitement. Lin Feng thought happily. Just then, his cell phone rang. He pulled it out and saw it was a call from his good friend, Tang Yiming. Lin Feng had been in this world for quite some time, so he'd naturally become familiar with his original self's interpersonal relationships. Lin Feng answered the phone and said familiarly, "Hello, what's the matter? Fuck, brother Feng, have you seen the news online?" "What news? You didn't know yet? Where have you been? Did you just wake up?" Tang Yiming yelled. Aliens appeared in Fangling City. More than a dozen colorful light beams fell from the sky and turned into a group of steel giants. Lin Feng held the phone a little further away from his ear, and after he finished speaking, he joked, "Are you writing a novel here? Talking like that? Oh. That's not the point," Tang Yiming continued. "Let me tell you, these steel giants attacked a foot massage parlor for some unknown reason. Then a group of foreigners in strange costumes appeared and fought with the steel giants. But they failed and were all defeated. Then our Chinese military also rushed over and launched a fierce attack on the steel giants, but it was useless. They couldn't break the steel giants' defense at all. At the critical moment, a man named Lao San appeared. He killed all the steel giants with a stick." After Tang Yiming finished, Lin Feng said, "I already knew about what you're talking about." "You knew? Did you see the video online?" Tang Yiming immediately became excited. "Do you think Old Sun is super handsome and super powerful?" "Yeah," Lin Feng thought to himself, "I didn't just see the video online, I am Old Sun besides. You haven't seen a stronger mythical figure yet." Lin Feng also had a card for the Buda in his hand. "Ha ha ha, great minds think alike," Tang Yiming laughed. "I'm telling you, I've made Old Sun my idol. I just called my dad and told him I wanted to change my last name to Sun, but he didn't agree and even scolded me. Ugh. A pedantic old man, damn it, not really." Lin Feng quickly advised. He'd heard a lot of crazy fans, but this was the first time he'd seen one. "Forget it, let's not talk about this sad story. I called you to talk about this, and secondly, I found a problem with Old Sun." "What problem?" "Many people online say Old Sun is an alien like those iron giants, but I don't think so, because he dresses like ancient Chinese people. So, I think he might have some connection to ancient China. I want you to come over, and we can look up ancient texts and see if we can find any clues about this Old Sun." Tang Yiming grew increasingly excited. "If we really find any records about Old Sun, we'll be celebrities." Tang Yiming and Lin Feng are both researchers and enthusiasts of folk history. Their homes are filled with history books that could fill an entire wall. Hearing this, Lin Feng smiled and said, "Ask me about that. I know everything about Old Sun." "You? Don't be ridiculous. I don't believe you. I don't even know where this Old Sun came from." "How could you know?" Tang Yiming didn't believe Lin Feng at all. The scene changed. Somewhere in the universe, Loki lay on a pile of rubble. Large and small pieces of debris floated around. Loki slowly opened his eyes, only to feel a jolt of pain throughout his body. He didn't know what he'd just experienced. "I'm still alive, not dead," he muttered. He felt a sense of relief. He'd jumped off the Rainbow Bridge, yet he hadn't died. "I've survived a disaster, so maybe something good will happen to me," Loki muttered, forcing himself to sit up. But looking at his surroundings, a look of confusion crossed his face. Where's this place? Loki had no idea where he'd arrived through the time rift. But then, a dangerous aura appeared. Loki's hair stood on end, and he instantly activated his stealth spell, fading into the darkness. He moved through the shadows to another piece of rubble. Whoosh, bang, suddenly, a streak of red light flew at high speed, piercing the spot where he'd been, halfway embedded in it. A closer look revealed a high-tech spear. Loki's figure materialized, and upon seeing this, his face darkened. If he had left even a second later, he would have been doomed there. He'd just said he'd escaped death, and now another crisis was brewing? Damn Old Sun, damn Thor, it's all your fault. Loki blamed everything on Thor and Lin Feng. With a wave of his arms, two strangely shaped daggers appeared in his hands. He looked around angrily and shouted, Who attacked me? Get out here and die." As the words fell, footsteps sounded behind him. Loki spun quickly and saw an ugly but towering alien. His expression tense, he braced himself for an attack. But suddenly, noticing the alien's attire, Loki frowned. "Chitauri, are you one of Thanos' men?" The alien, surprised by Loki's knowledge of the Chitauri, nodded and said, "Yes." Then, he noticed something was amiss with Loki. "You carry the aura of Asgard, the power of witches, and the scent of those frost giants who only hide in the cold darkness. You are very strange, shut up. Loki waved his arm, excitedly saying, I am an Asgardian, I don't have the aura of a frost giant. If you say that again, I will kill you. The other party ignored Loki's outburst of emotion. He shook his head and said, no matter who you are, trespassing into the Chitauri army without permission is a capital crime. Chapter 14 Loki's Deal with Thanos. Chapter 14, Loki and Thanos' Deal, 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster Chapter 14, Loki and Thanos Deal. Thanos' subordinate reached out for the spear. With a roar, a flash of red light appeared within the rubble, and it exploded. Then, with a whoosh, the spear returned to his hand. Then, his towering figure, spear raised, faced Loki. A brilliant red light emanated from the spear, and his towering presence created an overwhelming sense of oppression. Facing this scene, Loki's expression was solemn, not wanting to take it lightly. The Chitauri army was formidable, and it was said that several of Thanos' personal recruits were particularly formidable. Judging by their attire and tone of voice, this one must have been one of Thanos' own recruits. They were plundering planets, apparently in search of the Infinity Stones, but what they were going to do with them was unknown. However, Odin seemed uninterested in the stone's power. Loki's thoughts were somewhat distracted. But suddenly, he snapped back into consciousness, quickly regaining his composure. Damn it! I just emerged from the dimensional rift, my mind's still a bit hazy. I'm actually losing my focus at this moment. Loki gritted his teeth, clenching his dagger tightly as he stared at the enemy's spear. He'd swiftly counterattack if the enemy attacked. But at that moment, the nearby void buzzed with a flash of white light. Then, a massive projection appeared. It was a head with purple skin. Its expression was calm, yet it exuded a powerful aura. Seeing this projection, Loki was startled. Thanos also looked at Loki. His men slowly knelt on one knee. Thanos said calmly, "You're special. You must have some connection to Asgard." Loki frowned at this. While Thanos was powerful, Loki, as the second prince of Asgard, had been superior to the billions of beings in the Nine Realms since childhood, so he wasn't intimidated by him at all. Thanos seemed to ponder. Then, he added, "I'm short on men. Would you be willing to serve as my subordinate? Go to Earth, open a space portal, and allow the Chitauri to descend upon Earth." Upon hearing this, Loki understood that this meant they were going to Earth to seize the Infinity Stones. Which low-level planet would have the Infinity Stones, Loki wondered. However, he didn't dwell on it. After a moment's hesitation, he asked, "What's in it for me? Once you successfully open the space portal, the Chitauri will descend upon Earth, and you'll be able to command them at will. And after conquering Earth, you'll be the ruler of the planet," Thanos promised. Loki's eyes lit up at this. He wasn't particularly interested in ruling Earth. He wanted to be king of Asgard. But he was very interested in commanding the Chitauri. The Chitauri are powerful. If they descend upon Earth, I can lead them to kill Thor and that old sun even with all his might. Old sun would be no match for the Chitauri, Loki thought excitedly. Lin Feng had foiled his plan to kill Thor, so he desperately wanted to kill Lin Feng. With this in mind, Loki smiled at Thanos and said, "Okay, I promise. But let me be clear, I'm not going to be your underling. I'm doing you a favor." Thanos was slightly startled. However, it didn't matter to him. He nodded, "Yes." Then, a flash of blue light appeared, and a scepter appeared, floating towards Loki. Loki reached out and took it. The scepter was about a meter long, with a bird-like head, shimmering with a brilliant light. It seemed to contain an inexplicable spiritual power. "This scepter is yours. It will help you accomplish your mission better," Thanos said calmly. The moment Loki covered the scepter, he felt the power of the blue light and immediately realized its power. "Mind Stone," he gasped. Then, calming down, he added, "Haha, with this scepter, this mission is incredibly easy." Thanos looked at the beaming Loki, a hint of teasing and anticipation flickering in his eyes. Then, he vanished. Earth. China, National Historical Archives. It was already nightfall, but Professor Feng Min was still busy among the bookshelves. The archives housed a variety of precious historical materials, including books unearthed during Feng Min's youthful excavations of mountain ruins. And what he was looking for was a worm-eaten fragment among those books. He wanted to see if the person recorded in that fragment was the same person who now appeared in the public eye as an old son. That's strange. Where did that fragment go back then? Professor Fengmin asked, puzzled, rummaging through the various bookshelves. To make his search easier, he even dumped all the ancient books he had searched on the floor. These ancient books were extremely valuable. If they were taken outside, wealthy book lovers would be scrambling to get them. It wasn't piled up on the ground like it was now. But at this moment, Fengmin couldn't care less. He desperately wanted to find the fragmented copy from back then, because the information recorded in it could potentially overturn public perception. Where did I put it? Fengmin's forehead was covered with sweat beneath his graying hair. He kept searching through the ancient books, then putting them on the ground. He was already exhausted from the search. But his determination and excitement kept him going. Finally, his hard work paid off. As he put the books on the ground again, he suddenly saw a black book sandwiched between two ancient books on the second-to-last shelf of the bookshelf next to him. At the same time, an intuition told him that this was the ancient book he was looking for. Fengmin's heart moved, and he hurried forward to pull out the ancient book. Upon seeing it, Fengmin was instantly excited. Haha, I found it. I finally found it. This was the fragmented copy he had read all those years ago. Fengmin beamed. If the character described in this book is truly the exact same Sun Wukong, what a tremendous discovery this would be. Fengmin had unearthed this book during an archaeological excavation in his middle age, but after so many years, he could barely remember its contents. But if the image depicted in this fragment truly matched that of Sun Wukong, then this discovery would be far more remarkable than Columbus's discovery of the New World. Holding the black fragment, Fengmin felt both excited and nervous. The excitement was obvious. The nervousness stemmed from the fear that he'd made a mistake, and that the image depicted in this fragment wasn't the same Sun Wukong. If that were the case, his excitement would be in vain. Furthermore, the origins of that Sun Wukong remained unclear. But regardless, he'd found the book, so he had to read it. With mixed feelings, Fengmin took a deep breath and, with mixed feelings, flipped open the black cover. The first, yellowish-brown page had much blurred text and was riddled with insect holes. But the most striking thing was a depiction of a character. The moment Fengmin saw it, she froze in shock. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 caused a sensation on the entire internet. The origin of Sun Wukong was found. Chapter 15 The whole network is in an uproar. The origin of Sun Wukong has been found. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 15 The whole network is in an uproar. The origin of Sun Wukong has been found. Fengmin was so excited that even the hands holding the ancient book were shaking. The description of the character in the ancient book showed that he had a hairy face, exquisite clothes and attire, holding a stick in his right hand, and the expression on his face was vivid, unruly and domineering. It's exactly the same appearance. Fengmin was excited, and quickly looked at the text below. The great sage equaling heaven, Sun Wukong, was born in Huaguo Mountain. Even the name is the same. Now it can be confirmed that the Sun Wukong is the character recorded in this ancient book, Fengmin said excitedly. When I unearthed this fragment and flipped through it, I thought it was just a collection of strange tales, so I didn't take it seriously. I never imagined its accounts would be true. Suddenly, Fengmin thought again, and wondered, but if Sun Wukong is a historical figure, how did he survive to this day? Was he an immortal ancient being? Fengmin paused. He thought about it, and the power Sun Wukong displayed made immortality seem understandable. So, the era in which this Sun Wukong lived must have been remarkable, and the historical data we currently have is precisely lacking information about that era. Fengmin frowned. He felt that he needed to conduct extensive research into the era in which Sun Wukong lived. It was truly an extraordinary era. After all, it could produce a figure as immortal and powerful as Sun Wukong. But, another question remains, why did this Sun Wukong never appear before, yet appear now? Could it be related to the recent extraordinary events? Fengmin pondered again. He pondered this carefully for a moment, feeling uncertain about the matter and needing further research. Thinking of this, Fengmin didn't hesitate. He pulled out his phone and called the president of Wukong University. He wanted to report this matter to the president and secure more resources to investigate the matter. Hello, an elderly voice answered as the call connected. Old Feng, what's up, Old Feng? It's so late, I'm already in bed, getting ready for sleep, Feng Min excitedly exclaimed. Old Zhao, something big is going on. Big? What's that big? I found out where that Sun Wukong came from. What did you say? Zhao Songyang was taken aback. He had, of course, seen the videos of Sun Wukong circulating online. This Sun Wukong had a mysterious origin, never seen before. Some said he was an alien, and there were many such claims. Where are you? Zhao Songyang asked quickly. The historical archives. Zhao Songyang was startled by this, confused as to what he was doing there. Could it be related to Sun Wukong's origins? But he didn't dwell on it. He'd find out once he got there. Okay, I'll be right there. Wait for me. With that, Zhao Songyang hurriedly got up, dressed, and left, even as his wife complained. He rushed to the library. He saw Feng Min sitting among a pile of ancient books. He hurried over. Old Feng Min, seeing Zhao Songyang approach, also stood up, holding onto a nearby bookshelf. Zhao Songyang approached and got straight to the point, asking, You said on the phone that you'd figured out the origins of that Sun Wukong. Yes, what origins? That's a long story. Feng Min said with a smile. I once led a team to a newly discovered ruin deep in the mountains. We unearthed a number of ancient books there, including a worm-eaten fragment. The character depicted in it was exactly like the Sun Wukong. Zhao Songyang was startled, took a breath, and quickly asked, Where's that fragment? Let me see it. Feng Min handed it over. Zhao Songyang flipped open the fragment and was immediately shocked. It's really the same, he exclaimed in amazement. Yes, Feng Min said, so that Sun Wukong wasn't an alien, but an ancient Chinese figure. Furthermore, the era he lived in was a remarkable one, unknown to us modern people. Remarkable era? What do you mean? Zhao Songyang's expression froze as he realized what was happening. Indeed, the fact that Sun Wukong could still live to this day and possess such power, the ability to fly and burrow into the earth, speaks volumes about the remarkable era he lived in. Otherwise, how could he have such power? Seeing Zhao Songyang's stunned expression, Feng Min knew he understood. Without further explanation, she said, What we need to do now is study the conditions of that era. This is something that would shock the world. And who knows, perhaps once we understand it, it will be of benefit to us in our own time. Yes, Zhao Songyang agreed with Feng Min. This was a big deal. I'll call the higher-ups right now and report this. Then, Zhao Songyang reported the matter to his superiors. The higher-ups were also shocked and immediately agreed to their investigation, offering any resources they could. You know, this kind of thing is a top priority, no matter which country it happens to be. And with the government's permission, this matter reached all major newspapers and media outlets. Rumors were circulating online that Sun Wukong was an alien, and now that evidence had been found proving he was an ancient Chinese figure, it was time to publicize it. All major news outlets and newspapers rushed to report on the story. Even online platforms like Zhihu, Sohu, and Penguin, as well as short videos like Douyin, Kuaishao, and Bilibili, quickly spread the news. Through these various channels, the news quickly became a sensation across the internet. Hero's identity revealed. He's not an alien. Sun Wukong's identity has been discovered. Shocking. So this is how the hero became known. A myriad of news stories appeared online, but the core message was the same. Sun Wukong's identity had been discovered. Beyond online media, newspapers were also radiating their last breath of life, creating a scene where people once again crowded around newsstands, waiting to buy a copy. This was a moment of special significance. However, the internet's memory is limited. If you wanted to pass on a piece of information, the print version was the best choice. Newsstands and bookstores were sold out, and some even started paying exorbitant prices to buy the day's front page. On the streets, in offices, schools, and even in mental hospitals, practically everyone was talking about it. Holy crap! Is this true? They've found out Sun Wukong's identity? No way. Isn't he an alien? How can that be found out? Aliens. Who told you about aliens? Isn't that what's being spread all over the internet? If you were an Earthling, how could you be so powerful? Even Iron Man isn't that powerful, right? Yeah, what the hell? Aliens. Are your aliens wearing ancient clothes? Damn. It's as good as not publishing this news. They say they've found out Sun Wukong's origins, but they won't reveal them yet. Isn't that really frustrating? Countless people were curious about the origins of this Sun Wukong. But just then, A post on Wukong University's official website instantly caused another internet sensation. Chapter 16. A professor from the history department of Wukong University gave a lecture. Chapter 16. Wukong University History Department professor gives a lecture. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 16. Wukong University History Department professor gives a lecture. The news is, Wukong University History Department Professor Feng Min will give a lecture on the origins of Sun Wukong in the Great Hall of Wukong University at 10 o'clock tomorrow. As soon as the news came out, it spread across the entire network. Netizens were stunned. Then, they were excited. Oh my god, they are waiting here. Ha, did they really find out where Sun Wukong came from? I thought it was a rumor made up by someone, and then the whole network believed it. Now Wukong University has come out and said that they are going to hold a lecture, so it must be true. Damn, I was wondering why there was only news about finding out where Sun Wukong came from, but no details. It turns out they are going to hold a lecture. Ha, a lecture is good, it can explain it more clearly. Fuck. Then I have to buy a ticket to go to Beijing quickly. I want to see it live. I'm already buying it, but the software seems to be stuck and won't move. Fuck, forget it, I'll just drive to Beijing. Can the person above help me buy a ticket too? I'm a college student. By the way, give me another 200 yuan. Get lost, fake. It's all fake. Don't buy a ticket to Beijing. This thing is fake. Don't ask me how I know. I signed a confidentiality agreement. That's all I can say. What? What do you mean by that? That scheming frog keeps rubbing your belly. Is the person above worried that everyone's buying tickets to Beijing, leaving you without one? That's why they were saying this. PFFT. That's very possible. Oh shit, I'm suddenly enlightened. The official announcement from Wukong University went viral online, rivaling the previous headlines released by major media outlets about the investigation of Sun Wukong's origins. Suddenly, scores of citizens bought tickets overnight or drove to Beijing just to attend the lecture and learn about Sun Wukong's origins. It was almost a pilgrimage. It was understandable. The sudden appearance of such a powerful figure capable of flight and escaping the earth in modern society would surely intrigue everyone. Time flew by, and the night passed. It was 7 in the morning. Professor Feng Min was still analyzing the information on the fragmented manuscript. It was incomplete, another miscellaneous collection of theories. Furthermore, the record of Sun Wukong consisted of only a few pages, and many passages were worm-eaten or the handwriting was illegible, making it extremely difficult to decipher the information contained therein. Seeing Feng Min busy all night and still working, Wukong University President Zhao Songyang couldn't help but persuade him, "Old Feng, you haven't slept all night. Your health is important. Go get some rest." "No, I can't sleep. This matter is too important for modern society. I have to quickly organize the information I have so that I can give the lecture," Feng Min said excitedly. He wasn't sleepy at all, and his mind was full of information about Sun Wukong. Unfortunately, the fragmented manuscript contained so little information. Zhao Songyang didn't know what to say. He understood her feelings. After all, the appearance of Sun Wukong related to an ancient Chinese era that had never been understood. And it was a magical era. Zhao Songyang didn't stay in the room any longer. He turned and walked out. Outside, Zhao Songyang took out his phone and said, "Old Feng is right. This is a major discovery, extremely important to society. We must vigorously promote it." Thinking of this, he dialed a number. "Hello, President," a voice came from the line, but it seemed very busy and noisy. "Xiao Zheng, contact the TV stations and major video websites for me. Oh, and don't forget the radio stations, too. I want to change this lecture to a live broadcast." Zhao Songyang had barely finished speaking when Xiao Zheng on the other end of the line smiled and said, "Principal, there's no need to contact them. The people you mentioned have all come to us personally, asking if we can do a live broadcast. And besides domestic ones, international TV stations and websites also want to broadcast." Zhao Songyang was stunned, but soon understood. This matter was so serious, it was only natural for these platforms to want to cooperate. Great, let's get this out there. At Lin Feng's house, Lin Feng woke up from bed and grabbed his phone to check the time. But as soon as he opened the screen, he saw a news push. Shocking. A professor in the history department of Wukong University has discovered the origins of Sun Wukong. Lin Feng was instantly alert and sober. He quickly unlocked the phone and clicked on the news. After a moment, Lin Feng smiled in surprise. That's pretty fast. They actually found out where I came from. Lin Feng understood. After all, the power displayed by Sun Wukong was so shocking and incredible, it was natural that some people would want to quickly investigate his origins. But then, Lin Feng had another thought and said, "System, bring up my personal dashboard and see how my shock value is increasing." As soon as he finished speaking, a virtual dashboard appeared before Lin Feng's eyes. Name, Lin Feng. Character cards, Sun Wukong. Level 2 playability, Tathagata Buda. Level 1 playability. Playability points, Sun Wukong 78 points. Note, playability points cannot be transferred between characters. Points from one character can only be used for that character. Shock value, 23,908 points. Note, shock value can be used to purchase items in the store, including but not limited to mythical character cards. Ling. Shock value increased by 1. Ling. Shock value increased by 1. Holy crap, shock value is over 20,000. And it's still increasing, Lin Feng exclaimed in surprise. His shock value had previously been over 5,000, and now, in just one night, it had increased to over 20,000. It seems like the popularity is growing faster after it's generated online buzz, even faster than completing hero quests. The last time I did a hero quest, I only earned 5,000 shock points, Lin Feng beamed. Shock points can be used to purchase character cards, so naturally, the more the better. If the moon hasn't come out yet, the streetlights can still illuminate the windowsill, but just then, his cell phone rang. Lin Feng picked up the phone and saw it was his good friend Tang Yiming calling. Lin Feng had a vague idea why he'd called so early in the morning. So, he answered, "Hello, fuck, brother Feng, did you see the news online?" Tang Yiming exclaimed, "Sun Wukong's origins have been discovered." "I saw it," Lin Feng laughed. "This is incredible. I spent so much time searching for information yesterday and couldn't find any clues about this Sun Wukong, and yet someone actually did." Tang Yiming expressed surprise, then said, "Brother Feng, are you going to the lecture at Wukong University?" "I'm planning on going." Tang Yiming had already idolized Sun Wukong, so he absolutely had to attend the lecture. Lin Feng was stunned when he heard this. "I could go and listen to see if what they said is true or not." Thinking of this, Lin Feng raised his lips and said, "Okay, you go first, I'll be there soon." Chapter 17 Lecture officially begins. Chapter 17 The lecture officially begins. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 17 The lecture officially begins. Backstage at the Great Hall. Professor Feng Min had already compiled the information he had analyzed so far. Although the fragments contained limited information, they contained information about Sun Wukong's origins, birth, and other circumstances. With only a few minutes left before the lecture began, Feng Min felt both excited and nervous. Explaining Sun Wukong's origins meant unveiling a mysterious era never before known. The higher-ups were also watching closely. "Huh?" Professor Feng Min took a deep breath, then exhaled, trying to calm himself, but found it impossible, so he gave up. At that moment, Principal Zhao Songyang hurried over and asked, "Mr. Feng, it's almost time. Did you bring your notes?" "Did you?" "Yes, don't worry." Feng Min patted the old-fashioned notebook on the table. Zhao Songyang nodded repeatedly. Sweat dripped down his face, and he went to have the sound and lighting staff double-check the equipment. Because this was a live broadcast, they had to ensure everything was working perfectly. The sound and lighting staff also confirmed that the equipment was functioning properly. Soon, it was time. Feng Min said something to Zhao Songyang, then, under Zhao Songyang's nervous, expectant gaze, she headed towards the aisle leading to the podium. Upon reaching the podium, she saw the seats packed, thronged with people, and numerous media reporters. Everyone was waiting for the lecture to begin. The live stream had also begun. Immediately, a large number of netizens joined in, their comments flooding in. "Ha ha ha, I'm the first one, wow. Wow, it's finally starting, damn it. I didn't get a ticket to Beijing, otherwise I'd be the only one sitting there, don't even mention it. I'm going to write a huge miserable on your legs. I didn't get a ticket either, but I drove to Beijing and now I'm stuck on the highway. There are so many people, it's outrageous, I'm so jealous. I have to work and can't go there. I can only watch the live broadcast, hurry up. Start soon. I've been waiting for ages, yet. Where did Sun Wukong come from? Is he an alien? I even made a bet with someone. It's 1,000 yuan. Netizens excitedly posted comments, eager to know Sun Wukong's origins. Meanwhile, Lin Feng and Tang Yiming had also arrived. They were sitting together. Tang Yiming was a bit overweight, but when he saw Feng Min emerge, he immediately became excited. He grabbed Lin Feng's arm and said, "Fuck, brother Feng, look. Professor Feng Min is coming out." He and Lin Feng were both researchers of folk history, so naturally, they were very familiar with this kind of official-level figure. Yet, Lin Feng smiled and nodded. "So exciting. This is the first time I've met him in person," Tang Yiming said with a beaming smile. "I wonder what he'll say later." Tang Yiming was extremely curious about Sun Wukong's origins, but he hadn't been able to find any relevant information. Suddenly, a thought occurred to him, and he winked. "Brother Feng, didn't you say last time that you also knew about Sun Wukong? Then, why don't you go up and say a few words later?" Tang Yiming's words were not malicious, he was just teasing Lin Feng. Lin Feng understood what he meant. He smiled and said, "Not necessarily. If he's wrong, I'll correct him." Hearing this, Tang Yiming curled his lips. "Good boy. I told you you were fat. And you're still panting." Lin Feng smiled and said nothing more. He looked at Feng Min at the podium, anticipating what he would say. Professor Feng Min looked around and saw the packed room. He was excited, knowing everyone had been waiting for a long time. He was about to speak, but suddenly, he noticed a young man. For some reason, he thought the young man's eyes seemed a little strange. However, he didn't pay much attention to it, thinking he was overthinking it. "First of all, welcome everyone here. Our lecture officially begins now." With that, Feng Min led the applause. The audience followed suit, and for a moment, the applause was thunderous. Even Principal Zhao Songgang, watching this scene from backstage, joined in the applause with excitement. Feng Min pressed his hands down, and after the applause died down, he smiled again. "This Monkey King, Sun Wukong, has been all the rage online lately. His mystery and power have us all very curious about his origins. Some people online say he's an alien, just like those steel giants." Feng Min paused, then added, "But after 2 days of research, we've discovered that this Sun Wukong is not an alien at all." These words startled many in the audience, as they had all assumed this Sun Wukong was an alien. After all, how could a native Earthling look so strange and powerful? Many viewers in the live stream were also surprised. "Holy shit, not an alien? I always thought it was." "Yeah, I thought so too. Ha ha ha, I knew it wasn't an alien. I won the bet and earned my friends $1,000. If it's not an alien, then what could it be?" The comments continued, and more people grew excited and curious. Professor Feng Min took in the surprised expressions of the audience. He paused, then added, "Our research has revealed that Sun Wukong was actually an ancient Chinese figure from a certain era." The audience was stunned. The livestream viewers were also shocked. What? Sun Wukong was actually an ancient Chinese figure? How could this be possible? Just as everyone was stunned, Professor Feng Min continued, "Research shows that Sun Wukong was born in Huaguo Mountain. He sprang from a stone and was born a monkey. With no parents, he was raised by nature. Later, he sailed to sea in search of immortality, learning the art of immortality, the 72 transformations, and the flying magic of the somersault cloud, which allows him to fly a distance of 108,000 miles with a single somersault." Wow! The moment these words were spoken, there was an instant uproar. Everyone was stunned once again, almost unable to believe their ears. Holy crap, popped out of a stone? That's so awesome. How did he do that? Immortality, 72 transformations. No wonder he's still alive and so powerful. Damn. How can he appear and disappear without a trace? That flying magic is incredible. A somersault can take him 100,000 miles. That's faster than the speed of light. Amazing. Then where did he get that staff? Does it have a name? There was an uproar, some excited, some curious, some questioning. Professor Feng Min smiled, then raised his hand to quiet everyone down. Once everyone quieted down, he continued, "After Sun Wukong mastered his magic and returned to Flower Fruit Mountain, something happened. We haven't found any records of these events yet. However, afterward, he went to the Dragon Palace in the East China Sea to seek a weapon. And so he found that staff. It's called the Ruai Jingu Bang. It weighs a whopping 13,500 kilograms. Wow." These words caused an uproar again. Chapter 18. Some people questioned her, but Feng Min faced it calmly. Chapter 18. Some people questioned her, But Feng Min faced it calmly. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster Chapter 18. Some people questioned her, but Feng Min faced it calmly. Everyone was shocked. The iron rod in Sun Wukong's hand, which was not even as thick as his wrist, actually weighed 13,500 kilograms. Is this true? Oh my god, it's unbelievable, it's so heavy. I thought that the iron rod was at most 20 or 30 pounds, I didn't expect it to be so heavy. No. This is unscientific. How can such a thin iron rod weigh 13,500 pounds? Are you sure? How can this situation be explained by science? That iron rod must be a magical object, that's right. Besides, have you ever thought about it? If the iron rod was an ordinary iron rod, how could it be possible to flatten those steel giants? You know, those steel giants can't even be broken by rockets. Hiss. Makes sense. Then it seems that how powerful is Sun Wukong? He could wield a 13,500-pound iron rod so vigorously. Yeah, shocked voices filled my ears. Feng Min beamed, adding, after obtaining the golden cudgel, Sun Wukong, for some reason, was led to a place called Nanshanmen. It was a very dangerous place, and many attacked him, but he was defeated. He was then awarded the title of Great Sage equaling heaven. Feng Min paused, then said with an apologetic smile, due to the limited leads we currently have, we've only gained this much information about Sun Wukong. But rest assured, we'll continue to dig deeper into his story. Any new developments will be announced as soon as possible. The audience was stunned. What? That's it? They hadn't heard enough yet? But then, recovering their composure, they too applauded. For a moment, thunderous applause filled the room. Even though I didn't get enough, it's nice to learn about Sun Wukong's origins. Yeah, I never thought he could be an ancient Chinese. Hey, doesn't that mean he's our ancestor? Ha ha ha, that makes sense. We actually have such a powerful ancestor. I really want to know more about Sun Wukong. It's so intriguing. Yeah, that's right. Especially the details of how he went out to sea to learn magical powers, sought the golden cudgel, and attacked the Nanshanmen. Right. I want to know those things too. There was a flurry of discussion. The vast majority of the audience wanted to know the details of these stories. But there was no way. Professor Feng Min and his team hadn't dug up the complete information, they only knew the general outlines. The audience in the live broadcast room were also discussing this issue. They wanted to know the details, too. The applause gradually died down. Tang Yiming stopped clapping and looked at Lin Feng beside him, slightly disappointed. Brother Feng, I thought I'd hear detailed information about Sun Wukong, but I only got a general idea. Tang Yiming shook his head and added, but at least we know his origins. Lin Feng smiled and said, Professor Feng Min is right. Sun Wukong's origins are indeed like this. But if you want to know more about him, you can ask me. I know everything. Okay, how could I not know you? Tang Yiming curled his lips in disbelief. But just then, a man raised his hand, stood up, and said, Professor Feng Min, I'm a graduate student in the Department of Art at Wukong University. I have a few questions about your account of the story of Sun Wukong. Swish. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the room turned to look at him, including Lin Feng and Tang Yiming. Someone else was raising questions? But Suzhou showed no sign of panic, seemingly unfazed by the looks. Feng Min also looked at Suzhou. Faced with this sudden situation, he was only stunned for a moment before returning to normal. It was normal for someone to have questions in this situation, and this was not the first time he had encountered such a situation. This could also be considered a form of academic discussion. Student, please ask any questions you have, Feng Min said kindly. Thank you, Professor, Suzhou first said respectfully, then stated his question. Professor, the story you told about Sun Wukong is a bit like the plot in a strange story novel. For example, he was born from a stone, went out to sea to learn from a master, and so on. I think history is rigorous, so I don't agree with your statement that it is similar to a strange story. Hiss. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the audience took a breath. They didn't expect this person to say such a thing. However, thinking about it carefully, it seemed to make some sense. So, they all looked at Feng Min again, wanting to see how Professor Feng Min would answer. Feng Min smiled and said calmly, Classmate, that's a good question. When I first looked up information about Sun Wukong, I also thought it sounded like something out of a fantasy novel. But don't forget one thing, the Sun Wukong we see is incredibly powerful, and this already shatters our worldview. So, based on that, do you still think I'm talking about something out of a fantasy novel? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone suddenly understood. Yes, Sun Wukong was so powerful, transforming into a streak of red light and flying at breakneck speed, and being able to crush a steel giant with a single blow. All of these things really happened. How could they be part of a fantasy novel? Suzhou pondered for a moment, then nodded, finding it plausible. Then, looking at Feng Min again, he said, "Second question. You mentioned Flower Fruit Mountain. Where is this Flower Fruit Mountain? I don't think I've ever heard of this place before." "Right, well," Feng Min paused at this. He hadn't expected the other party to ask this question. But he didn't make random guesses or speculate. Instead, he shook his head and said truthfully, "I don't know where the problem you're talking about is." Everyone was stunned by this statement. Professor Feng Min didn't know where he was? Seeing this, Suzhou felt a little proud that he had figured out the professor's problem. However, he didn't dwell on the question. Instead, he asked, "Then there's one last question. You said Sun Wukong was an ancient figure, but how could ancient Chinese people be so powerful? If they were so powerful, there would be records of them in our historical records. And if Sun Wukong could live to this day and achieve immortality, why can't they?" Everyone was shocked again. This was indeed a big question. If the ancient Chinese were so powerful, how could we have never known about it? And how could Sun Wukong appear now? What about the other ancient people? Forget about the others, what about the ancient emperors? Everyone was puzzled, including the audience in the live broadcast room, who were also pondering this question, and even the barrage of comments stopped for a moment. Upon hearing this question, Feng Min looked at Suzhou and said, "This question is easy to explain. First, Sun Wukong is very powerful, as everyone can see from the video. Secondly, although our Chinese history is long and extensive, there is a major historical gap, which I believe everyone is aware of. There is no relevant record of this period in history, it is a complete blank period." Everyone nodded silently when they heard this. Anyone who had been to school knew about this matter, but why did the professor bring it up? But the next second, Feng Min said something shocking. What if Sun Wukong was a person from this blank period? Hiss. At this statement, everyone was surprised and shocked. Chapter 19 Lin Feng spoke, and the whole audience was shocked. Chapter 19, Lin Feng speaks, shocking the audience. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 19, Lin Feng speaks, shocking the audience. That makes sense. If Sun Wukong lived in this interregnum, then the lack of historical records makes sense. Everyone pondered this. Professor Feng Min was pleased with the audience's reaction. He added, "The era in which Sun Wukong lived must have been a magical and remarkable one. It was able to produce a figure like Sun Wukong." Everyone understood the meaning and became excited. "Yes, this era is truly amazing." "It's not amazing, it's incredible." "Yes, it truly is incredible. I'm curious about what that era was like." "Ha ha ha, I'm curious too. And I also think, if I were born in that era, wouldn't I be able to become like Sun Wukong?" Discussions arose. Everyone was filled with curiosity about that era, eager to learn more about it. The audience and the live stream were also discussing the matter, equally curious. At this moment, even the foreign media were astonished. Chinese civilization once boasted such a powerful and glorious era. Just this tip of the iceberg is already so astonishing. What hidden weapon does China hold? China is destined to rise. This profound historical heritage is simply unimaginable. But Suzhou paused, then turned to Feng Min and said, "Professor Feng, this situation you're describing is unverifiable, right? These are just your guesses, right?" Feng Min nodded and said truthfully, "Yes, that's what I was going to say." "Huh?" Everyone was disappointed. "So it was just your guesses, and I thought they were true." After thinking it over, everyone agreed. If Professor Feng Min's description was true, then that era would also be a blank period in Chinese history, with no relevant records and no way to verify it. The atmosphere in the room darkened slightly. Feng Min, observing this, felt a mix of emotions. He felt a sense of responsibility for his academic work, so he wouldn't say anything unverified. Now he wanted to say something to liven up the atmosphere. But he found himself at a loss for words. Just as he was frantically trying to think of something to say, a young man suddenly stood up and said, "While Professor Feng's claims are unverifiable, they're certainly true." Feng Min was startled by these words, then realized, wasn't this the young man I'd previously found not? But why was he saying that? The entire audience also noticed Lin Feng, their collective curiosity piqued. Who is this guy? I don't know, fuck. What did I just hear? He's actually saying Professor Feng is right? He's confirming what he said. But Professor Feng himself isn't sure. Could he be even more knowledgeable than Professor Feng? How is that possible? Good boy, he's probably trying to show off, shh. It's possible. After all, this is a live broadcast, huh? That's outrageous. Don't you even know where we are? That's right. Get him out, the audience erupted in discussion. Some were confused, some thought Lin Feng was just trying to impress, and some were furious, threatening to kick him out. Suzhou also looked at Lin Feng. His brow furrowed slightly, believing Lin Feng was seeking attention by standing up, rashly affirming something that even Professor Feng himself wasn't sure about. Suzhou thought for a moment, and since he was seeking attention, he might as well give him the benefit of the doubt. Suzhou asked, "Student, why are you so sure of Professor Feng's words?" Professor Feng himself isn't sure about this. With that, everyone's attention fell on Lin Feng again. Tang Yiming only then realized what was happening. Lin Feng's sudden rise had stunned him. Recovering from his shock, he thought to himself, oh no. This kid's boasting is so outrageous that he's convinced himself. With that thought in mind, Tang Yiming stealthily tugged at Lin Feng's shirt, signaling him to sit down. This was no joke. If he wasn't careful, he'd end up in a bad light. But Lin Feng paid no attention to Tang Yiming's tugging. He hadn't wanted to say anything, but seeing his shock level rising so quickly, he decided to add fuel to the fire and push the matter forward. He looked at Suzhou and said, "First, let me answer your second question. You're asking where Flower Fruit Mountain is, right?" Lin Feng paused and said, after returning from his sea voyage to seek immortality, Sun Wukong went to the Dragon Palace in the East China Sea to seek suitable weapons. The Dragon Palace in the East China Sea is, of course, in the East China Sea. Therefore, it follows that Flower Fruit Mountain is an island in the East China Sea. However, with the passage of time, Flower Fruit Mountain may have long since sunk to the bottom of the sea, which is why there are no historical records of this place. Everyone was stunned by this. On closer inspection, it made some sense. Suzhou pondered, agreeing that there was some truth to it. Feng Min's eyes lit up with a smile when he heard this answer. He asked, "Then how can you be so sure I'm right?" This statement piqued everyone's curiosity. Even Tang Yiming was momentarily stunned and stopped trying to pull Lin Feng. Haha, Lin Feng chuckled. Any error that existed will leave behind relevant records, no matter how long it's passed. However, Sun Wukong's era didn't, which is inherently impossible. But if this were a magical era, then do you still think it's impossible? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's hearts trembled, as if they had been enlightened. It was indeed true. If this were a magical era, then erasing all traces would be a piece of cake. Suzhou was also surprised. So was Feng Minimum. He looked at Lin Feng with a smile. Lin Feng had solved two of his problems and helped him regain his composure. Feng Min smiled and asked, "Student, what else do you know? Can you share it?" Everyone was immediately surprised. What the hell? Professor Feng's question was like asking for advice. Lin Feng smiled and said, "I think we can classify Sun Wukong's era as the ancient era. And since it's an era, it's impossible that there was only one powerful figure like Sun Wukong." Hiss. Feng Min gasped in realization, then quickly asked, "You mean there are many figures like Sun Wukong?" "Yes," Lin Feng nodded. Feng Min was shocked, but after thinking about it, she could understand. After all, it was impossible for such an era to produce only one powerful figure, Sun Wukong. The audience was also shocked when they heard this, unable to believe their ears. Lin Feng continued, "That ancient era must have undergone a major change, causing it to disappear. However, figures as powerful as Sun Wukong, with their long lifespans, must have fallen into a dormant state. Therefore, they have not appeared in Chinese history. And I think Sun Wukong's awakening now is probably related to the recent extraordinary events. Perhaps in the future, one ancient figure after another will awaken." Lin Feng made up this lie, setting the stage for the appearance of the mythical characters later. But the audience in the venue and the viewers in the live broadcast room were unaware of this, so they were all shocked when they heard this. Chapter 20 The principal invites Lin Feng to be a visiting professor. Chapter 20 The principal invites Lin Feng to become a visiting professor. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 20 The principal invites Lin Feng to become a visiting professor. Were there so many powerful people in that era? I suppose there were. After all, it's impossible for just one son Wukong to be born. That makes sense, but what happened in that era? Why did it disappear? I don't know. But I really want to know what it was like back then. It must have been shocking. Lin Feng's words sparked deep thought and discussion among everyone. However, while pondering, some also became curious about Lin Feng. Who is this person? Why did he know so much? It felt like he knew even more than Professor Feng Min. Suzhou pondered Lin Feng's words as well. Professor Feng Min, standing at the podium, looked at Lin Feng with a beaming smile. He felt that this young man seemed to know more than he did, and must have learned it from other sources. Professor Feng Min wasn't the only one with this thought. Principal Zhao Songgang, standing in the background, also watched Lin Feng with excitement, and even had an idea. The lecture concluded to a round of enthusiastic applause. Everyone learned about the origins of Sun Wukong and the magical era that existed in ancient China. However, the only regret was that we didn't know much about that era, and even less about Sun Wukong himself, which made it less than satisfying. The full video of the lecture has become a trending topic online, with netizens buzzing with discussion. Holy crap! There's actually an era like this in Chinese history. Awesome! Ha ha ha! I knew our history was extraordinary. Oh my god! Who is this guy? Why does he know so much? Didn't Professor Feng Min say that was a blank period in Chinese history? Yes. Incredible. What are you thinking? Do you think he's from that era? Ha ha ha! How is that even possible? So, we have our own superheroes? So, who's more powerful, Sun Wukong or Iron Man? The above person is talking nonsense. How can Iron Man be compared to Sun Wukong? That's right. Don't they use their brains when they speak? Holy crap. What a shame. Such a shame. If that era hadn't disappeared, wouldn't we also be able to cultivate and learn the Dao and become figures like Sun Wukong? You just discovered this? I'm so jealous. Online discussions raged. Wukong University. Lin Feng and Tang Yiming followed the crowd out of the auditorium. Many media reporters had wanted to stop Lin Feng for an interview. However, there were so many people, and Lin Feng and Tang Yiming slipped into the crowd, eluding them and failing to be noticed. Therefore, they were not interviewed. As Lin Feng and Tang Yiming walked along, many people pointed and murmured to their companions, their faces filled with surprise. Tang Yiming, observing the surroundings, suddenly felt a surge of envy at Lin Feng's popularity. He lowered his voice and asked quietly, "Brother Feng, tell me the truth. Did you make up what you said in the lecture?" "No," Lin Feng said. He paused for a moment. He knew Lin Feng couldn't have made it up, since Professor Feng Min had approved of it. But he found it hard to believe. He knew Lin Feng's level, so how could he know all this? Could he have been secretly taking extra classes? But that's too intense, isn't it? Tang Yiming was puzzled. Just then, a voice called out from behind, "Classmate, wait a minute." Hearing this, Lin Feng and Tang Yiming turned to see Wukong University President Zhao Songgang and Professor Feng Min trotting over. They both froze for a moment, unsure what was going on. Zhao Songgang and Feng Min trotted over to Lin Feng, excited smiles on their faces, as if he'd discovered a treasure. Tang Yiming seemed a little reserved and nervous around them. Lin Feng, on the other hand, appeared composed and at ease. He asked, "What can I do for you?" Zhao Songgang's question only piqued his interest. Most people would be nervous and at a loss when they saw them, just like the slightly overweight classmate next to him, who looked away, wanting to look at him but unable to. This classmate, however, was composed and calm, even asking questions. That's the reaction of someone with real knowledge, Zhao Songgang pondered, and asked, "Classmate, what's your name? Are you a student at Wukong University?" "Lin Feng, not from your school, and I've already graduated and am no longer studying," Lin Feng answered truthfully. "Oh," Zhao Songgang nodded, then added, "I wonder if you're free? How about we find a place to sit down and chat?" "Chat?" Lin Feng was taken aback, not knowing what he meant. But after thinking about it, he nodded. Okay, he wanted to know what the other party wanted to talk to him about. "Okay, please come this way. We'd better avoid those reporters," Zhao Songgang smiled. He knew that if the reporters saw them, they would swarm around them and they wouldn't be able to leave. Lin Feng nodded, then said to Tang Yiming, "Fatty, you go back first. I'll go sit with them." Tang Yiming nodded stiffly, and at the same time, he envied Lin Feng even more. What an honor it was to be invited to chat by the president of Wukong University and Professor Feng Min, a master of history. The president's office. Come, Professor Lin, have some tea. Zhao Songyang brewed a cup of tea and placed it in front of Lin Feng. Hearing the title, Lin Feng asked in surprise, Professor Lin, haha. Zhao Songyang smiled, sat down, and said, Professor Lin knows more about Sun Wukong than we do, and he's even deduced the situation of that era. So, it's only right that I call you Professor. Besides, age isn't a factor in academia. Hearing this, Lin Feng stopped caring about the title. Zhao Songyang asked, how did you get into history? Or did you study it in college? I studied it in college, and I've continued to study it since graduation. I can say I'm a history enthusiast, Lin Feng said truthfully. I see. Zhao Songyang smiled broadly. Lin Feng felt that Zhao Songyang's conversation was full of meaningless questions, so he got straight to the point. I wonder what you wanted to talk to me about, President. Zhao Songyang and Feng Min exchanged glances, and both smiled. Zhao Songyang extended a sincere invitation to Lin Feng, saying, what Professor Lin said in his lecture is enough to show that he understands the era of Sun Wukong better than we do. Therefore, we would like to invite you to be a visiting professor at Wukong University to continue your research on that era and Sun Wukong. Lin Feng frowned when he heard this. He had not expected that the other party would come to him to discuss such a matter. But this is not a good idea. I don't have a master's or doctoral degree. Besides, this is Wukong University. Chapter 21 Lin Feng decided to use the Tathagata role-playing card. Chapter 21 Lin Feng decided to use the Tathagata role-playing card. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster Chapter 21 Lin Feng decided to use the Tathagata role-playing card. Upon hearing this, Zhao Songyang and Feng Min immediately understood what Lin Feng meant and hurriedly advised, Professor Lin, you're being too modest. Indeed, Feng Min said, the history of that blank period is impossible to verify today, yet you were able to infer those events. That speaks volumes about your strengths. Feng Min paused, then added, furthermore, I believe you understand how crucial that blank period is to our modern society. Shouldn't such a miraculous era be showcased to the world? Shouldn't foreigners be able to see the profound depths of our Chinese history? Zhao Songyang replied, indeed. And academic qualifications are only one criterion. If your knowledge remains untold, it would be a loss to all of humanity. Zhao Songyang's words were sincere. He truly didn't want to miss out on such a talented young man with an unexpected understanding of ancient civilization. Lin Feng looked at Zhao Songyang and Feng Min, who were almost pleading with him. He knew what they were thinking. He knew all about myths and legends. But for them, it was a mysterious and magical era they had never encountered before. Their reaction wasn't surprising. Lin Feng pondered. Zhao Songyang and Feng Min, seeing Lin Feng considering it, were delighted and fell silent, asking him to think it over. Agreeing to their request isn't a bad idea. And who knows, it might even be an opportunity to promote myths and legends, Lin Feng pondered. His current goal was to resurrect myths and legends. That way, he could portray a mythical figure, and everyone would know who he was, creating even greater shock value. Besides, publicly appearing as a professor while secretly assuming a heroic identity seems like a good idea, but it would require a relatively secretive environment. Lin Feng pondered for a moment, and ultimately decided to agree. He looked at Zhao Songyang and smiled. Okay, President, then I'll agree. Great. Professor Lin, that's fantastic, Zhao Songyang and Feng Min exclaimed excitedly. Lin Feng added, but I need a completely quiet environment. That's no problem. Everything's easy. I'll arrange it for you right away. Zhao Songyang agreed immediately. A completely peaceful environment was no big deal for the president of Wukong University. Thank you, President, Lin Feng said with a smile. I don't deserve it. We should be the ones thanking you. Zhao Songyang waved his hand and said with a smile, you are able to join Wukong University. With your joining, China's history, which has been hidden in the shadows, will one day see the light of day. Yes, Professor Lin, Feng Min echoed. Both of them were thrilled, tears welling in their eyes. This was no exaggeration for them. The gaps in Chinese history were the profound mystery they had pursued their entire lives. At their age, they no longer needed to fully unravel the truth about that period. Even uncovering just a glimpse would be enough to satisfy them. A few hours later, Lin Feng followed Zhao Songyang to a garden nestled in the mountains. This garden contained residences, rockeries, and flowing water. The style was reminiscent of the ancient gardens of Suzhou, with a touch of modern elements, creating a truly elegant atmosphere. Professor Lin, how is this garden? Zhao Songyang asked Lin Feng. It's in the mountains, so no one comes here. Plus, the path at the foot of the mountain is guarded by security, and outsiders are prohibited from going up. It's absolutely quiet and undisturbed. Not bad, Lin Feng said. Haha, Zhao Songyang smiled. A friend of mine spent a lot of money to build this garden. I told him about your situation, and he immediately let me bring you here to live. I see. Lin Feng looked at the two-story house in front of him, feeling very satisfied. It was much more comfortable than his previous home. Zhao Songyang smiled and said, then I won't bother Professor Lin anymore. I have things to do at school. Are you leaving now? Why don't you come in and sit for a while? No, I'll come back next time I'm free, Zhao Songyang said. If there's anything Professor Lin needs, just call me and I'll arrange for someone to bring it over. Okay, Zhao Songyang left. Lin Feng entered the house, which also had a rather ancient style, grand and calm. Lin Feng wandered from the first floor to the second, then opened the window and looked outside. Outside, he saw a small bridge, flowing water, a bamboo forest, and a rockery. In the distance, verdant mountains and trees, a truly beautiful sight. Lin Feng's face was filled with smiles. Suddenly, he remembered something and said, System, open your personal dashboard and check your shock value increase. Okay, Master. With that, a virtual dashboard appeared before him. Name, Lin Feng. Character cards, Sun Wukong. Level 2 playability, Tathagata Buda. Level 1 playability. Playability points, Sun Wukong 78 points. Note, playability points cannot be transferred between characters. Points earned by a character can only be used for that character. Shock value, 73,908 points. Note, shock value can be used to purchase items in the store, including but not limited to mythical character cards. Ling. Shock value increased by 1. Ling. Shock value increased by 1. Hiss. So much shock value added, Lin Feng was surprised. Before, the shock value was over 20,000, but now it's over 70,000, a full 50,000 shock value increase. Just a few words at the lecture, spreading the word about the myth, actually generated this much shock value. It seems my thinking was correct. The more popular the myth, the more shock value it generates, Lin Feng beamed. Based on the current situation, the Tathagata Buddha character card can be used, Lin Feng said excitedly. Before, no one knew Sun Wukong's origins, so when he appeared as Tathagata Buddha, everyone still didn't know his origins. But now, with him appearing as Tathagata Buddha, everyone will believe his words even more and know that Tathagata Buddha also came from the same era as Sun Wukong. The aftermath of Lin Feng's lecture spread beyond China. With numerous foreign media present at the time, the news had spread throughout the world. The world heard what the young man said and was shocked. In ancient times, there was an island in the East China Sea called Huaguo Mountain. A magical stone on it gave birth to a stone monkey. The stone monkey journeyed out to sea to seek the truth and learn the art of immortality. Without that video and so many witnesses, no one would have believed it. But now, they couldn't help but believe it. Take, for example, Tony Stark of the United States. Tony watched the video, his brow furrowed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 The Bald Monk appeared out of nowhere. Chapter 22, A bald monk appears out of nowhere. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 22, A bald monk appears out of nowhere. Is this really the history of China's blank period? Could it be that the technology was so advanced during that period that it could have modified human genes to that degree? Tony naturally focused on the technological level. Sun Wukong was transformed by the technology of that era, which is why he possessed such power. How could he know about things like Taoism, immortality, and the immortal palace of immortality? It seems necessary to research, Tony secretly decided. Such advanced technology must be studied, no matter the cost. But just then, the voice of the artificial intelligence butler, Jarvis, rang out. Sir, Mr. Fury is visiting. What was he doing here? Tony was startled, then said, "Don't see me. Just say I'm away and I don't know when I'll be back." Tony knew this person had come to see him. "Sorry, sir, he's already in," Jarvis said. Tony turned and saw a tall, bald man with a black eye patch on his left eye, dressed in a black trench coat, walk in. It was Nick Fury, nicknamed Chief of the Stewed Eggs. "When are you going on a long trip?" Nick asked knowingly. Tony didn't answer, instead saying, "Do you know that entering someone's home without permission is illegal?" "Oh, then you can sue me," Nick said bluntly. Tony smiled and turned back to his own work. He was developing the next generation of the Mark armor. Nick looked at the virtual projection in front of Tony, displaying the details of each Mark component, then watched Tony skillfully operate it, his only remaining right eye glancing in admiration. He got down to business. "Tony, the world is changing beyond our imagination. We need your help. Would you like to join us?" Tony said without hesitation. "No, I don't like departmental work. There are too many rules and regulations. Besides, you can't afford me." Tony didn't even turn his head. Nick paused for a moment, then added, "China has the superhero Sun Wukong. If you join us, you might be able to meet him. Aren't you interested in him?" Tony paused, even stopping his drawing. He pondered for a moment, then turned to Nick and said, "I'll think about it." China. Ministry of State Security. Chen Haitian sat in his office, reading the confessions of Thor and the others, a look of doubt on his face. He had originally planned to interrogate Thor and the others before heading to Hong Kong to prepare for the response to the terrorist organization smuggled in from the United States. But the results of the interrogation were beyond his expectations. Standing at his desk, his subordinate observed the director's furrowed brow. After a moment's hesitation, he asked, "Director, are these confessions true or false?" The subordinate was puzzled. The interrogations of the foreigners they had brought back had yielded baffling confessions. Especially the one named Thor. He actually claimed to be Odin's son. Who was Odin? Isn't that the king of gods in Norse mythology? So this isn't bullshit? But the confessions of the other four people are similar to Thor's. This is a bit outrageous. And they were in separate cells before, so there is no possibility of collusion. Also, what about those steel giants? They are obviously not the product of Earth's technology. Could it be that what they said is true? But how is this possible? Chen Haitian heard his subordinate's questions and did not answer. He was also confused. But reason told him that this was impossible. Knock knock, but at this moment, there was a knock on the door outside. Chen Haitian looked up and said to the door, "Come in." As soon as he finished speaking, the door was pushed open, and a subordinate hurried in with a mobile phone in his hand. He said anxiously, "Director, please take a look at this video." Chen Haitian was a little confused, not knowing what a video was. He took the phone and started watching. But immediately his eyes widened and he was immersed in it. Our research found that Sun Wukong is actually an ancient Chinese man from a certain era. First of all, Sun Wukong is very powerful, which everyone can see from the video. Secondly, although our Chinese history is very long and there is a lot of history, there is a big historical fault. I believe everyone knows this. What if Sun Wukong is a person from this blank period? I think we can classify the era in which Sun Wukong lived as the ancient times. And since it is an era, it is impossible that there is only a strong man like Sun Wukong. That ancient era must have undergone a major change, which led to its non-existence. However, people as strong as Sun Wukong had a long lifespan and should have fallen into a dormant state. That is why they did not appear in Chinese history. And the reason why Sun Wukong woke up now, I think, is probably related to the recent extraordinary events. Maybe later, one ancient figure after another will wake up. Hiss. After watching the video, Chen Haitian took a breath, with a look of shock on his face. When was this video produced? He asked, quickly looking at his subordinate. He knew the video was about Sun Wukong, but why hadn't he seen it before? He'd clearly researched Sun Wukong's history before. Director, this is the lecture Professor Feng Min from the History Department of Wukong University gave while you were interrogating those foreigners. He discovered Sun Wukong's origins, the subordinate exclaimed excitedly. Chen Haitian finally understood. Then, a thought struck him, and he asked, who is this person in the audience? How does he know so much? He was referring to Lin Feng. We're investigating his information, Chen Haitian nodded. He looked back at Lin Feng in the video. Putting aside this person's identity for now, based on what he's saying, Doesn't that mean what those foreigners said is true too? Chen Haitian thought to himself. If Taoism, immortal arts, and the art of immortality existed in ancient China, then the existence of things like Odin and Asgard wouldn't seem surprising. Chen Haitian said this, but he was still shocked. His already shattered cognition shattered again. Ding-ling-ling. Ding-ling-ling, but just then, a rapid ring rang out, as if something major had occurred. Chen Haitian picked up the phone and said, "This is Chen Haitian, director." A bald monk suddenly appeared in the department. A panicked voice came from the microphone. Suddenly appeared, Chen Haitian was stunned and asked, "What do you mean?" "It means exactly what it says." Suddenly appearing out of thin air, hiss, Chen Haitian gasped. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." "Come and see, this monk is so strange." "Okay. I'll be right there," Chen Haitian replied. Although he was surprised, with the example of Sun Wukong before him, his acceptance was much better. Chapter 23, Buda lifts the ban for Thor. Chapter 23 Tathagata Buda lifts the ban for Thor, 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster Chapter 23 Tathagata Buda lifts the ban for Thor. Several guards stared at the bald monk in front of them with vigilance and nervousness. This monk just appeared out of thin air. Moreover, he sat cross-legged, and there was actually a lotus platform under him. In addition, after he appeared, lotus flowers grew all around him. You know, this is reinforced concrete. This situation has never been seen or heard of before. Therefore, several people thought of Sun Wukong at the same time. Only such a mysterious figure can do this, right? Thinking of this, no one acted rashly. And this monk, with a kind face, did not make any other moves. He was Lin Feng. Lin Feng played the role of Tathagata Buddha and teleported here directly from his home. And the purpose of his coming here was that with Thor here, it would be easier to show his power. Otherwise, where would he go to show his power? At this moment, Lin Feng's mind was clear. Ever since impersonating the Tathagata Buddha, he felt he had reached a state of selflessness and emptiness, a state of total comfort. Simultaneously, he felt a profound sense of power, a sense of complete understanding of everything. As expected of a Tathagata Buddha role-playing card, even with the same level of role-playing privilege, it's so much more powerful than Sun Wukong's. It's simply not on the same level, Lin Feng thought to himself. Meanwhile, monks in temples across the nation sensed a powerful presence. This aura filled them with yearning and excitement, yet they couldn't articulate the cause. What's going on? I don't know, it seems something has appeared in that direction, but why is it so compelling? You have the same feeling. The monks discussed the situation, baffled. While this world's China experienced a historical hiatus, resulting in the absence of mythology, temples and Taoist temples still existed. However, they didn't enshrine the Tathagata Buddha, the Three Pure Ones, or the Jade Emperor. Instead, they worshipped other, unknown entities. However, they were all inanimate objects. To put it bluntly, it could be interpreted as a blind offering. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the unknown object they were offering shattered to the ground. Seeing this, the monks were horrified. The statue is broken. How could this happen? Why would it break out of nowhere? This shouldn't happen. This statue hasn't been like this in all these years. The chatter intensified, all filled with surprise and confusion. Ministry of State Security. Chen Haitian hurried over and was stunned by the scene before him. He saw a bald monk sitting cross-legged on a lotus pedestal. Lotuses grew from the surrounding ground, and a faint golden glow lingered above the lotuses. The scene was incredibly strange. Chen Haitian came to his senses. He didn't know why, but he felt the urge to kneel before this monk. He shook his head, forcing himself to stop thinking about it, otherwise he would actually kneel down. And for him, the director of the Ministry of State Security, kneeling down would be embarrassing. He asked, "Excuse me, who are you?" Although he didn't kneel, he couldn't help but use honorifics. Amitabha, Lin Feng chanted, "I am the Buddha of Lingshan, my Dharma name, Tathagata Buddha, Tathagata." Buddha? Chen Haitian frowned slightly upon hearing this, and couldn't help but think of Sun Wukong. But suddenly, his mind was struck, and he wondered, could it be that he is from the same era as Sun Wukong? And has he awakened now? Chen Haitian took a breath. Judging from the current situation, this was very possible. So, it seems that what that person said is true. In that era, there were many people like Sun Wukong. Chen Haitian's face was shocked. He had been skeptical before, but now he was completely convinced. But, who is that person? Why does he know all this? Chen Haitian's curiosity returned. At this moment, the Tathagata Buddha before him spoke. The stars shift, the sun and the moon alternate. I never thought that after so long, humanity has embarked on a different path, no longer seeking immortality. However, perhaps it's related to the changes in the world in our slumber. Chen Haitian's heart trembled at these words. He seemed to understand the meaning, but he wasn't sure. He hesitated, then asked respectfully, "Excuse me, what do you mean by that?" I can't tell you now. You will know in the future," Lin Feng said with a kind smile. His voice was gentle, revealing a sense of tranquility and peace. Hearing these words, Chen Haitian, despite being filled with curiosity and doubts, had no desire to ask. In fact, he felt a sense of peace and tranquility within him. And this was a peace he had never felt since he was born. It was as if, at this moment, even if Mount Tai collapsed before him, he could remain calm. Just then, Lin Feng looked up at the building and said, "There are several different auras there." Chen Haitian was curious, unsure of what he meant. But the next second, the Tathagata Buddha before him changed his hand gestures, and suddenly, Thor and his 5 companions appeared in the air before him. And they remained motionless, as if imprisoned. Hiss! Chen Haitian gasped, his eyes widening. He had never expected the other party to bring Thor and his 5 companions out. Moreover, this method was exactly the same as that used by Sun Wukong. No matter how many times he witnessed it, it was still shocking. But the most shocking were Thor and his companions. They were the ones involved. They were imprisoned separately at the time. But suddenly, they felt a strange power enveloping them. Then, in a flash, they appeared here, imprisoned, suspended in midair, unable to move. What's going on? Is the king here? The 5 of them were terrified. But when they saw Lin Feng, they immediately knew it was Lin Feng's doing. After all, Lin Feng was the most extraordinary and special person present. Thor, with his temper, was already furious at being treated like this. But facing Lin Feng, he didn't feel that way. On the contrary, he felt honored. This reaction even struck him as odd. Lin Feng looked at Thor and the other 4, effortlessly held in midair by him, a smile playing on his face. He said, "There's something strange about the auras you 5 carry. Fortunately, it's not demonic, but rather holy energy." Hearing this, Thor and the others felt a sense of relief. Lin Feng's gaze fell on Thor again, saying, "However, there's still a restriction on you. While it won't kill you, it does restrict your power. Well, our encounter proves your connection to the Buddha. I will remove this restriction for you, forging a bond. Perhaps we'll meet again someday." With that, Lin Feng raised his hand toward Thor and gently tapped the air. With that gentle tap, everyone heard a buzzing sound. Immediately afterwards, a golden light emanated from Thor. Strangely, although this light was bright, it wasn't at all glaring. Instead, a gentle aura emanated from it, permeating everyone's senses. The injuries sustained by Sif and the other 3 healed considerably at this moment. Thor felt the most profoundly, feeling a sense of relief throughout his body. His previous injuries were completely healed. Chapter 24 Odin was shocked. Who on earth freed my son from his bonds? Chapter 24, Odin is shocked. Who has freed my son from his bonds? 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 24, Odin is shocked. Who has freed my son from his bonds? Everyone present was utterly stunned by this scene, unable to recover for a long time. The light vanished. Thor felt the imprisoned divine power reappear, like a blocked river that has been cleared and now flows freely again, divine power flowing through every limb. Thor's expression was filled with shock and disbelief. He knew full well that his divine power had been imprisoned by his father, Odin. This imprisonment stemmed from his bloodline, from the constraints imposed by the king of Asgard on his subjects. Yet, this other party had broken it so effortlessly. How could this be possible? Without a thorough understanding of the source of Asgard's divine power, this would have been impossible. But this other party wasn't even an Asgardian, so how could he possibly understand divine power? Thor simply couldn't believe it. Yet, it just happened. Who is this person? Why does he possess such immense power? Is he in league with that Sun Wukong? Thor stared at the strange figure before him, his mind awash with confusion. The complexity was that his father had imprisoned his divine power, and he had been freed without his father's permission. The confusion was that he didn't know the other person's identity, and why was he so powerful? This was simply beyond imagination. Thor pondered for a moment, thinking, this person is even more powerful than that son Wukong. Back then, when Lin Feng had eliminated 18 destroyers and was communicating with Chen Haitian, Thor had heard Lin Feng's name. And now, Thor's thoughts were purely based on intuition. After releasing the imprisonment, Lin Feng waved his hand, and Thor and the other four vanished into thin air. When they reappeared, they had returned to their temporary holding cells. Thor and the other three were even more shocked. This application of special magic was simply terrifying. No incantation needed, just a wave of the hand to make it appear, a wave to make it disappear. Who is he, anyway? How could such a lowly planet like Earth have so many powerful figures? Thor was puzzled. Crucially, Heimdall had never mentioned this situation. This meant he hadn't discovered it either. Thor didn't know about the online news, so he had no idea what was going on. Meanwhile, in Asgard, Odin sat on his throne, his expression downcast. The surroundings were dim, devoid of light. This dimness, cast upon him, made him seem gloomy, like an old hero. Odin clutched his scepter, silent. He had held this position for a long time. His eldest son, immature, impulsive, and arrogant, had nearly died in Jotunheim at the hands of the frost giants, nearly sparking a war between Jotunheim and Asgard. His second son was cunning and scheming, willing to do anything to secure the throne, even attempting to kill his brother Thor and launch a war against Jotunheim to completely exterminate the frost giants. And now, fearing punishment, he leaped through a dimensional rift, disappearing for a moment. Even Heimdall couldn't find him, and it was unknown whether he was alive or dead. Worrying about his two sons made Odin seem to age dramatically in a short period of time. Odin sighed wearily and grasped his scepter. But at that moment, something struck him, and his expression suddenly changed. He abruptly stood up, gazing at the starry sky. He felt a powerful force descending upon him. It frightened even him. What's this force? Are the creatures from the dark dimension appearing again? Odin's face was filled with alarm. But after sensing it, he realized it wasn't. This force wasn't evil or violent, but rather neutral and peaceful. And it lasted less than 30 seconds before disappearing. Odin was filled with confusion and bewilderment. But then, he suddenly realized that Thor's restraints had been released. What's going on? Could it be related to the mysterious force just now? Odin speculated. It wasn't surprising that he'd thought of this. After that power appeared, he sensed the imprisonment on his son had been lifted. With that thought, he called out, Heimdall, what happened to Earth? Heimdall guarded the Rainbow Bridge. His eyes could see anywhere in the 9 realms. But in the past, his calls to Heimdall always received an immediate response, but this time, no reply came. Odin frowned. Heimdall, this time, Heimdall finally replied, but his voice was trembling. My king, I can no longer see Earth. It has vanished from my sight. Upon hearing this, Odin's face froze. What did you say? You can't see Earth. Odin couldn't believe it. How could such a thing be possible? But then, he suddenly thought of that mysterious and powerful force. Could it be that they have obscured Earth, preventing Heimdall from seeing? Odin exclaimed in surprise. Thinking carefully, it seemed very possible. They had helped Thor break free from his imprisonment on Earth, and then brought their power to Asgard. For such a powerful being to obscure the Earth, preventing Heimdall from seeing, would be a piece of cake. Moreover, only such a being could accomplish this. Thinking of this, Odin became uneasy and quickly ordered, Heimdall, stop spying on Earth. The powerful being's actions clearly indicated his unwillingness to allow anyone to spy on Earth. Forcing such an attack would likely displease him. Go to Earth and bring Thor back when you have the chance, Odin ordered. Yes, Heimdall replied. Odin pondered again, wondering who the other person was. The mysterious and powerful force Odin had sensed was a complete miscalculation. It was merely the surge of power caused by Lin Feng's release of Thor's restraints. However, this did increase Lin Feng's shock level. After all, Odin was no ordinary person, and the shock he felt was far greater than that of an ordinary person. Chen Haitian was astonished at Lin Feng's ability to manipulate Thor and the other four with such ease. This power was truly incredible. But he just said that Thor and the others have a different aura, which means they're truly not from Earth. Chen Haitian was now completely convinced of Thor's story about his origins. Furthermore, regarding what the man had said at the lecture. After Lin Feng finished this, he saw his shock level rising, and he felt excited. He then looked at Chen Haitian and said, I came here solely to see the world. Now that I've seen the world, it's time for me to return. However, Earth will soon face an alien invasion, but don't panic. This is China, the birthplace of humanity. Humanity is destined to be ours, and we have our own ways to overcome it. However, as a monk, I, with compassion, will not ignore this situation. I will give you a gift. If you encounter danger, show it to us, and it will protect the world and bring peace. With that, Lin Feng raised his hand and gently pointed at Chen Haitian. A golden light flew out, transforming into a sutra that appeared before Chen Haitian. Chen Haitian quickly caught it and looked up. The Tathagata Buddha was nowhere to be seen. He had vanished, as if he had never appeared. However, the lotus flower growing on the ground marked the scene that had just occurred. Chapter 25 Loki controls the Mandarin. Chapter 25 Loki controlled the Mandarin. 2024-08-19 Author, Good Monster. Chapter 25 Loki controlled the Mandarin. Hiss. Chen Haitian took a breath, his face full of shock. Again, this kind of mysterious power, no matter how many times you see it, will shock you and feel incredible. Chen Haitian came back to his senses and looked down at the scripture in his hand. It was a simple and ancient scripture with a texture like paper, but also a bit of satin. There was a character on it. It looked ordinary and there was nothing magical about it. However, Chen Haitian knew that since this was a gift from the Tathagata Buddha, it must be extraordinary. So, he carefully put the scripture away as if he was holding his newborn baby, intending to keep it well. Chen Haitian looked at the place where the Tathagata Buddha appeared again. The lotus growing on the ground was still there. And it was still fresh, with water droplets hanging on it. Chen Haitian thought to himself, he'd once considered inviting Sun Wukong to join his department, preparing to create a division similar to SYNOPSIS, but now, knowing Sun Wukong's background and witnessing the power of figures like them, he hesitated. Was he worthy enough to invite such a powerful figure? Would it be disrespectful? Chen Haitian frowned, torn. He wondered if he should bring this up with Sun Wukong the next time he ran into him. But after a moment's hesitation, Chen Haitian let it go. He'd wait until the next time he saw Sun Wukong. There were important things to do right now. He directed his instructions to the group around him, leave the lotuses alone. Leave them as they are. Also, what just happened is classified as top secret. No one is allowed to disclose or discuss it. Also, get ready. We're heading to Hong Kong immediately. There's a major operation going on there. Last time, their superiors called to say that a terrorist group had stolen a valuable item from SYLD and was smuggling it into Hong Kong. Now they were going to capture this terrorist group. Also, let's see what was stolen. Yes, the subordinate beside him replied. But suddenly, he remembered something, hesitated, and asked, then, what about Thor and the others? Chen Haitian paused after hearing this. Thor and the others had already been able to determine where they came from. The instructions were correct. Let them stay here for now, until we return from Hong Kong. Of course, if they want to leave, don't stop them, Chen Haitian thought for a moment. Thor and the others hadn't broken any laws. At most, Thor had just had his feet washed, which was nothing. Besides, they were from Asgard. If they were kept in custody, there was a fear of more trouble. Hong Kong. A huge luxury cruise ship sailed on the sea. Ahead was the port of Hong Kong. The cruise ship was carrying tourists from many countries, most of them from the United States. In a luxurious room, the curtains were drawn and the lights were on. A middle-aged man in a black robe sat upright on the bed, his eyes closed. Just then, a man approached, bent down, one hand on his chest and the other on his back, and said respectfully, "Sir, we are about to reach the port of Hong Kong." As soon as these words left his mouth, the middle-aged man opened his eyes. A green light flashed in them. It took a second or two for them to return to normal. He was the leader of the 10 Commandments gang. A man who possessed 10 magic rings and possessed powerful magical and technological abilities. His name had long been forgotten, and now he was known only as the Mandarin. How long will it take to reach the shore? About 15 minutes, yes, the Mandarin nodded. You may go down first, yes. After his men left, the Mandarin looked at his right hand, which was covered in rings. He grasped the air, and with the help of magic, a blue light flashed, and a blue cube appeared in his hand. He looked at the blue cube, and the blue light within it seemed to contain unimaginable power. Cosmic magic, wait until I thoroughly study your power, the Mandarin smiled. He had painstakingly stolen this artifact from SYLD and smuggled it to Hong Kong, China, hoping to study the cosmic cube's power there. Having read about Sun Wukong online, he was even more eager to delve into it and gain immense power. The Mandarin was filled with excitement, as if he had already seen himself mastering the cosmic cube's secrets. But then, a leisurely voice suddenly echoed from behind him. "This thing's light is truly beautiful." The Mandarin's hair stood on end. Without even a second thought, he whirled around and unleashed a magical attack. Bang! But the cube's light pierced the man's body, striking the television and creating a massive hole, rendering it useless. "Huh?" the Mandarin asked, puzzled. The man before him gave a mocking chuckle, then vanished like a projection. "Where's he? How did he disappear?" The Mandarin's eyes widened, his guard shifting. He knew the man's sudden appearance and disappearance meant he hadn't left, but was most likely still nearby. The Mandarin's face was solemn. Suddenly, he sensed something, whirled around, and launched a punch. The punch was coated in a black light, clearly infused with magical power. But Loki blocked it with his hand, then tapped the scepter in his right hand directly on the Mandarin's chest, emitting a blue glow. The Mandarin's body trembled, as if electrocuted, and he trembled violently. At the same time, his eyes turned black, as if dyed. After a few seconds, Loki retracted the scepter. The Mandarin paused, his eyes dark. Then, he knelt on one knee before Loki and said respectfully, "Master, ha." Seeing the other man controlled by the Mind Scepter and becoming his subordinate, Loki laughed heartily. "This Mind Scepter is truly useful. With such a magical artifact, I can easily destroy Thor and Sun Wukong. After this, I must find a way to wrest this Mind Scepter from Thanos," Loki thought to himself. However, now wasn't the time to dwell on that, there was more to do. He addressed the Mandarin, "Rise, mortal. I need you to do something. Take the cosmic cube and open the space tunnel. To open the space tunnel, one must possess the power of the cosmic cube." This was why Loki had approached the Mandarin. "Yes," the Mandarin said respectfully. His mind was now controlled by Loki's Mind Scepter, and he only obeyed Loki's commands, having forgotten his original purpose in Hong Kong. Meanwhile, in the United States, Nick had left. Tony looked at the information Nick had left behind. He had projected it using virtual projection technology. It was a palm-sized cube, glowing blue. According to Nick, the energy contained within it could only be described as infinite. Furthermore, this energy stone even contained the rules of space jumps, which humans hadn't even touched upon yet. For Tony, this was a huge attraction. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.